Lost Cities of the Maya with Luke Caverns. You are listening to Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons, monsters and serpents. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, and we are coming to you not live from the 10 by 10 by 10 Tangent Cube of Science, where we are nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high atop the Edwards Plateau. This episode is a little late this week. Sorry about that. But most of you listening to this in the deep future don't know that, so it's not a problem. But we do have a special guest with us this week. But first, before I introduce the guest, I have to remember to do this. Otherwise, some people get very mad. We are also joined by the Watcher, right? From deep beneath his secret space station in secret outer space, the Watcher is here with us. Thanks for joining us, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Really excited for this episode. I always like when we have a good guest on. And you'll have to excuse if there's any background noise.
Oh.
7 kids in the space station.
Okay.
I'm just going to mute it, let the show take its course. But it's good to be back, and I'm very excited for the show.
All right, man. Thank you. So, yes, our guest, this is Luke Caverns. Is that right? Caverns?
Caverns, yes.
Caverns,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That's the perfect name.
Plural.
How's it going, bro?
Good to meet you guys. Good to meet you guys. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me.
This
Yeah.
morning we had no idea this was even possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. So this morning, early this morning, we had a meeting with the with George and the Cosmic Summit people and all of the presenters, and Luke was there.
Yep.
He's been invited to be a presenter, and we are now very much looking forward to his presentation. But some of the stuff he said during the meeting, we were just like, we need to get this guy on the show. So then Kyle contacts him, and it turns out he's nearby.
Yeah.
So he's just like, why don't I just come over?
Like just down the road. That's crazy.
So we're like, perfect. Come out to the studio and join us for a good old Snake Bros episode. So we really appreciate you coming out, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm really thankful to be here. It's just I know we were just having a conversation about how we've all kind of finagled our way into the position that we're in. But
Yeah.
man,
How did we get here?
I have seen y'all's podcast, and I'm here sitting in the studio. I mean, it's just crazy. And I've seen this podcast for, I don't know. I started getting. It's interesting, and I think we're all kind of picking up on it. But we have our own little industry that's kind of building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it obviously started with, I would say, Joe Rogan has like popularized it, but everybody has kind of grown up around that and gotten involved. And so, I started watching all these different YouTube channels, and you guys, I know you have your podcast on your YouTube channel. It's not like a traditional channel where you're making videos or whatever, but you guys have always been in the background and like linked in a lot of the videos that I've watched, like check out this podcast, or I've seen people that I follow, on episodes that you guys have done, years prior. So it's just crazy to be
cool.
sitting here. I almost don't even feel like it's real.
It's not real, bro.
Yeah,
It's not real.
It's a simulation.
Yeah, it's interesting you say Joe Rogan, because I was thinking when you were saying that, you could even, now this may not be as, obviously Joe really popularized some of these topics, but you could even go as far back as Art Bell and Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
Now that's not global. I mean, it became sort of global later, but, Coast to Coast AM, I do remember, staying up all night, listening to the radio, listening to this guy talk about aliens and ancient civilizations and having crazy guests on. And
yeah, I guess that's just for me, I guess, because that's a little bit before me. So I'm 25, so kind of like the epitome of what I've seen has been on Joe Rogan.
yeah, and I actually completely agree that Joe Rogan, is the portal for making this massive. Like, he has a huge audience and he reaches a lot of people. And when he gets somebody on that will talk about this kind of stuff,
yeah, for sure,
more people hear it than ever before in the history of the human race.
I think it's been like 10 years now that he's been getting ancient civilization guys on his podcast.
Yeah.
He got started in 2011 or 2012. And
Yeah,
I think
you can
in
go way back.
2013 he has Hancock on there.
Yeah, you can get old Graham episodes.
Yeah.
I dug back through the history and found all of them, and some of the old ones are really
some good,
interesting.
really good ones. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your background. Who are you? How did you end up?
Yeah. So I'm Luke Caverns, and man, I have been into ancient history my entire life.
Yeah.
There's never been a time where I wasn't totally wrapped up in it. I had other interests, I was into sports and stuff like that, but it always came back to ancient history. Like, I would go to school and, there was a time where I'd go to school, go to football practice, this, that, and the other, and that'd be my focus. And then I'd come home and my dad and I would watch movies about ancient history. And so it was
cool.
always, always the backdrop of my life is I was always interested in it. And I come from a really like Christian family. So Christian family, but a family that cares about the history of the Bible. My grandpa was a pastor, and we just always grew up studying like the history of the Bible, and I always connected with that and found that more interesting to know. I'd be sitting in Sunday school hearing the most cotton candy surface level thing about the Bible that I've ever heard, and I'm thinking like, well, I want to know about the guys who actually lived back then. And little did I know that was my first interest in anthropology. That's anthropology, studying how people live. And so I'm a cultural anthropologist who specializes in early civilization. And so it all got started 2004. I was 7 years old. I saw Brad Pitt's Troy, which is, you guys have seen that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by Troy. My grandpa had this old book called Lost Civilizations, which is crazy. It was printed the month I was born, so like August 1997. Printed the month I was born. I think it was just like one of those like best sellers that sits on people's coffee tables that nobody ever actually reads. But I was flipping through my grandpa's book, and it had Troy in there, and I couldn't really read that well, but I could read Troy. And so I stole that book from my grandpa. I still have it today. And
First Indiana Jones move.
Yeah.
Stole the artifact.
Stick it in the bag.
And I remember like periodically growing up, my grandma would be like, "Do you still have Papa's history book?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And I would never give it back. And I still have it today. And
It belongs in a museum.
Yes, it does. At this point, yeah. And so, I've got it put up on my bookshelf where you can see it and everything. And man, looking back through it today, I look at the cities and I'm like, wow. I just had no idea as a kid when I was 7 looking at this, that at 23, 24, 25, I would look back at this book and be like, oh yeah, that's Teotihuacan. That's Palenque.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea as a kid that I would know all of this later on. And so that was the beginning. And then that kind of continued on and everything. And I had other pursuits that I was trying to track down in life, and none of it ever really worked out. And then I was 23, still hadn't graduated from college, and still trying to figure out what I was going to do. And kind of at this place where nothing was working out. Of course, I say I'm 23, like that's old, it's not. But I had to figure something out. And then I just thought, I'd done all these other creative pursuits, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to talk about history. I would see these guys like, do you guys know who Coyote Peterson is? Have you ever seen him on YouTube? He's a big like wildlife type guy. He has I don't think he's actually a wildlife biologist, but he basically is. He's like a wildlife expert. And I'd always thought, I wish that there was a guy who made like kind of pop culture, quick, fascinating stuff about history that's kind of like an Indiana Jones of, the modern day, who makes videos, or like a Indiana Jones YouTuber. And I searched and searched and searched for that. I never found it. And then I just realized like, I might be the one that I'm waiting on. Like I should do that. Yeah, I should do it. And so I went like totally for it. And I like unabashedly copied Indiana Jones, like the whole theme, but it wasn't inauthentic. Like it's that's the way I like to dress. I like to dress that way. In the way Indiana Jones dresses, I've got the jacket and everything. They like sent to me from Wested, like the actual company that makes it.
Oh, that's cool.
And but it's not really copying him. If you guys know anything about Indiana Jones, he is a copy. Like there were people who came before him that dressed exactly like that. That was a very common style of dress. Indiana Jones popularized it, and now it's set in stone. Anyways,
and you always hear like, oh, he's based on this guy, or he's based on that guy, or he's based on this guy. Like Thor Heyerdahl is one of them that they say he's based on, but there's plenty. Yeah,
Franz Blom. Like you can. So Franz Blom, he was we'll get into this later, but he was a Mayan explorer, and he wore the brown pants, snake boots, long sleeve khaki shirt, leather jacket, brown felt hat. I mean, like that was a common look. Like that's the reason that Indiana Jones looks like that.
Yeah.
Is because it's just straight up copied from real people who lived.
Yeah.
But you know, it's okay. So I started pursuing it, and it just kind of.
Of course, you did
took
the
off.
anthropology study on Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
He's like, well, this is actually
Naturally.
legitimate how
Naturally.
people dress.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny that you recognize that, because that's so internalized in the way that I think now. That is funny. You recognize. Oh yeah, that is an anthropological study of Indiana Jones. So So during the time that I decided to start making the videos, I was like, I'm gonna get my degree in anthropology as well, so that I don't have to deal with some of the things that maybe some of our peers now might have to go through, where they're like, well, you don't actually know what you're talking about, because you don't have. Well, I don't mean you guys in particular. I just mean in general.
Yeah, but that's our MO. We're just like, we don't actually know what's going on.
Yeah.
We're armchair theorists.
Yeah, well, and it sucks, right? Because it's like everybody can be well studied. Everybody, if you committed yourself to it, you could know more about a certain topic than an archaeologist who specializes in it. Like, there's nothing that's off limits. I mean, maybe field experience, but even that, you could learn more. And so, you know, they kind of gatekeep, and so I wanted the opportunities that would come with, like, okay, here's all the stuff that I taught myself, which is what you're interested in me for. But here's this arbitrary degree that I also have. So I
think that's genius that you did that. And you know, Mark Young is basically doing that as well. He was inspired by Randall, and then he's just like, I'm going to become an archaeologist.
Yeah, Mark's
it's great.
Yeah.
And so even though he was inspired by this sort of alternative history, he's getting the degree and the credentials, and you know, with the open mind that he had when he got into it. And so that's just really cool.
And where's our soundbite? Like, I don't have my pad over here, but you missed a perfectly good chance to use.
I know.
What soundbite?
Why do you have to bring that up?
Is this gonna be a surprise? Am I gonna hear it later on?
I mean, you know, I knew it was going to happen. I was going to wait till segment 2.
Stop that recording right now and start it up again so that we can play that soundbite.
What's the soundbite?
We got the Indiana Jones theme on the board.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, I'm like, come on, bro, hit the button.
This thing didn't work. I just... Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, the actual button is not working.
How is that?
There it is.
Oh, cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Dude, I love that. What a song.
Yeah, you
That is
can't.
such a good
Yes,
song.
it's a classic. It's a beautiful song, and you can't have a podcast on ancient history without having that on your soundboard.
I didn't expect that Russ was going to sit there. I thought our guest was going to sit there, and so I kept everything over here, and then Russ was like, I'll sit here.
Yeah, I'll sit here.
So you don't have a soundboard.
I don't have a soundboard.
And then, of course, I always forget to hit record on the soundboard.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right.
You're a professional, bro. Zero mistakes.
I was professionally waiting until segment 2.
Yeah, that's the charm of the show, though. It's kind of like Indiana Jones. There's some imperfections in there, but that's why people like it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Hold on now. Zero mistakes, buddy.
Yeah.
Zero.
Have you guys
This is all planned.
seen some of the shots? If not, you have to go back and look at it. But there's some of the shots where there's people in the vehicles, but they're not actually there. It's like a little pole that they've stuck a hat on, and when the truck drives by, the hat's going like this. And they do it to the main characters too. Yeah, it's funny.
That's great.
Yeah. So go ahead.
You got your degree in anthropology, right? When did you get that?
Well, okay, I graduated in August, so I'm almost done. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm in my last semester right
okay.
now. It started on Monday, and I haven't.
And your birthday's in August?
August 1st, yeah. So I graduate, and I get my
That's
degree
my
on the same
birthday.
day. Is it really?
Yeah.
Whoa, we're having all kinds of like cosmic
That's weird, bro.
alignments right now. Yeah. So you're a Leo too.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Very cool. What about you?
Ah, fuck you, Leo.
Yeah. You know what? You're fired. I'm going to take him as the second host of the show.
Yeah, I'm Aquarius, bro. It's
Aquarius.
my age. We are entering.
Yeah, it is. He is.
It is. Wait, I thought the age of Aquarius ended.
No, it's the dawning
No, it's the
of
dawning
the age
of the age.
Oh,
of
okay,
Aquarius.
okay, okay.
It's the ending of Pisces.
Ending of Pisces. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. I had thought it was starting Pisces. Okay,
No.
okay.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the
Now
in the
I'm caught
normal
up.
year cycle,
Yeah,
they
but
do go
because
the
of
other way.
Precession goes backwards.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes more
So
sense.
we're
now.
moving from Pisces to Aquarius.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I got my or I get my degree in August, and I will.
That's great.
I'll have the credentials that people say that I need to talk about what I do.
That's really
Yeah.
cool, dude.
Yeah. So that was the whole purpose. I did it solely for like my videos and being, to be able to go talk at the things like the Cosmic Summit and say I am an anthropologist. So because I
that's
say
great.
that, any skeptics have to take me seriously, even though literally nothing that I have learned in school has anything to do with any of the things that I talk about. It just, some stuff, but not that much,
Yeah.
I took a class on early civilization or world civilization 1, which was Mesopotamia, the Nile Valley, Indus Valley, Mesoamerica, and just crushed those classes because there's nothing in it that's actually that in depth, So it's just funny you tell people, yeah, I have a degree in anthropology. They think you just know all this stuff, but no, you have to specialize,
But they teach you how to learn.
I was going to say, yeah, what about methodology? They teaching you that?
Yeah, well, they teach you how to learn it, like if you're working for a university and how to go be ethical at a site, the actual steps of studying a site, this, that, and the other. But as far as the methodology of there's not like a methodology of how you study an ancient civilization or something like that. But I don't want to get that confused with like actual field work and so an anthropologist, I'm not an archaeologist, even though sometimes it can be like I could step in the place of an archaeologist and theoretically like work and dig and anybody can do that. An 18-year-old kid can sign up to go be an archaeologist. If you give $2,500 to a university,
Yeah.
you can go be an archaeologist. But you're not going to be in charge of anything, obviously. But as an anthropologist, cultural anthropologist, it's my job to take if I were to work for a university, which I probably never will, it would be my job to take an artifact and to just study it. I could have a specialty where, I specialize in carbon dating. You can go off in any direction that you want to, but you have to have a PhD to do that. I'm not pursuing anything like that. Not even a master's degree is good enough. Like it's either bachelor's or PhD. Bachelor's is bare minimum, and you're not gonna be doing much with that. PhD, you can specialize in something specifically that you want to do. So in Dr. Barnhart's case, I think he got his PhD in cultural anthropology as well, I think. And he decided to study like I want to say settlement patterns of the Maya and stuff like that. But anyways, without going on a tangent, my job as an anthropologist, or what an anthropologist does, what I'm taught to do in school, is to take an artifact and from what people who have lived before, the roadmap that they have set out, which is why a lot of this is arbitrary, because if it starts off on the wrong point, everything's wrong, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what you do, and this is kind of like some stuff that I roll my eyes at sometimes, although it makes sense, but it's more important for like the anthropologist to actually understand everything from the beginning rather than take this at the surface level of what we know now. But say somebody handed me an artifact from the site of Coelho, which is like one of the oldest archaeological Mayan sites in the Belize Valley. It might be, I think it's like the first Maya kingdom that we know of. The settlement goes back to about 2600 BC, which is the time of the building of the Giza necropolis, so they say. So it goes back to 2600 BC. If somebody handed me an artifact from there, it is my job to essentially look at the artifact and then you compare it to artifacts that have been found in other places, in that area. I'm trying to speak in like non-scientific, non-academic terms. And it's my job to compare it to artifacts that have been found in other areas and what have past anthropologists and archaeologists, what have they concluded about this cultural region and where this exists in this time and what is the significance of it. And it's just about me putting it in the right place at the right time and giving it the right context based on what past anthropologists have said. And that's it.
So like relative dating in a sense.
Yeah, it's just relative. Like it's all just relative. Now, there's carbon dating that goes on, but just in like a basic standpoint, that's what an anthropologist does. But it can go way further. You can have like a lingual anthropologist or linguists who study language, which is pretty cool. There's a guy who I want to say he wrote the book Decoding the Maya. or Breaking the Maya Code. Have you guys ever seen this book?
Mm-mm.
I haven't read the book. But he is a Mayanist, but he's like a lingual anthropologist or a linguist. And so he studies language and how language evolves and everything, which is something I'm going to touch on at the Cosmic Summit. And it's the first thing that I talk about when I finally get to the Yucatan. So I break down like classical archaeology, where it comes from. So it starts in Africa, 8,000 BC. And then it goes in 8,000 BC. By that point, if Atlantis existed, it was gone at this point.
Yeah.
So you now have hunter-gatherer people who are living in fairly tropical regions in the Sahara Desert, so the Green Sahara. And then within the course of 2,000 years, from 7,000 BC until about 5,000 or 4,500 BC, the Sahara Desert dries up. Everybody goes sub-Sahara or they go to the Nile Valley. Same thing happens in Mesopotamia. They go to the Twin Rivers, Twin Rivers, the Fertile Crescent, and then you've got the Indus Valley as well. And so I basically go through all that, and then when I finally get to the Yucatan, I'm going to show the Yucatan Peninsula, and I'm going to go, does anybody know what this, can anybody raise their hand and tell me what this is? Somebody's going to say the Yucatan Peninsula, and I'm going to go, oh, so you think you're smart. What does Yucatan mean? Do you guys know what Yucatan means?
No.
So okay,
Yeah, it's what happens when you go out in the sun.
oh yeah, Yucatan. Yeah.
Yucatan.
Yeah.
Hey.
And yeah, that's a good one. So
That's the kind of answer I give to those kinds of questions.
yeah. So in I guess the 15th century, 14th century, I can never get that exactly right. But when the Spaniards show up, and they show up in the Yucatan, and so they see these native people walking around, and they go, where are we? What is this land? They thought they were going to be in India, whatever, and they go, where are we? And so the Maya people go up to them, and they're telling them like, I can't understand your language, and they're going, Yucatan, and they're saying, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so that is what Yucatan literally means. It literally translates in Yucatec, I believe that's the actual specific Maya language, is I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand your language. So the Spaniards go, this is the Yucatan.
This is the I don't understand.
Yeah. So
That's great.
So think about that. That's where all of this, like, it started at that point. They were like, oh yeah, this is the Yucatan. And so they started on that misconception. And I'm not saying that fully determined the way everything has gone, but you start off like on the wrong foot. And so we've come, I don't know, the last 400, 500 years studying the Maya. And sure, there's a lot of misconceptions, and there's a lot of misconceptions about the old world as well. And so that's kind of my presentation, is me talking about how we should never be so arrogant to think that we have all the answers, and a lot of people do. Like, a lot of people who are older, they're jaded and so set in their ways. And so I'm talking about how in the new world, we just don't have this among archaeologists. There's not necessarily, I mean, it happens. It's happening at El Mirador right now. If you guys know, I saw, who's your last guest? Was his name John?
No.
Yes.
Was it?
The tour guide?
Yes. The
Oh
tour
yeah,
guide.
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
he talks about El Mirador. Well, there's a guy out there who's like running that whole thing, and I shouldn't say too much about it, but he's got a whole thing going on, and he's probably the best example of like this hierarchical. He's like an intellectual god above people. Like, he determines everything that goes on. But for the most part, in the New World, you have people who are like genuinely fascinated, just like we are, who have the same approach, that are like, this is so mysterious and awesome. Let's just see where the data points us. Let's just see. So they've got all, the Maya were originally seen as like a peaceful civilization. It was totally utopian, this, that, and the other. Well, then they discover at Coelho, which is in Belize. So I didn't say this before. My main research, and you won't really find this on a lot of my pages because I'm trying to like really know what I'm talking about. There's just so much to take in. This is people's entire lives spent studying a field, and I'm trying to digest it all and understand it.
Yeah.
But my work in the future, and a lot of my videos in the future, I want to take like tours and stuff. Take people on tours and stuff. Is the Belize? I'm sorry, the Maya of the Belize Valley, which is like the Mayan Fertile Crescent. That's where a lot of the civilization began. So in Coelho, they end up finding in like 1000 BC, sometime around there, that there were young men whose their bodies were like deliberately mutilated and sacrificed, and their bodies were placed like in the circle. I believe it was like 10 young men, and maybe there was a woman who had like an obsidian blade like stuck through her skull, and their bodies were all bent over, and they're put in like a circle with their heads all facing each other. And they end up finding these burial sites all over the Belize Valley, but all over, the Maya world. Mayapan, that's the name of the Maya world, is Mayapan.
Mayapan.
Yeah, that's what they call it. It's it's not the Yucatan. They called it Mayapan, and that there's discrepancies about that, but that's kind of like.
Does that mean like the land of the people? This is like
yeah. The land of the Maya. This is whatever, and and so. Yeah, and
who was that? Sorry,
so they are warlike. They were.
Who was the tour guide? We were talking to this guy.
It was in Pagosa Springs.
Yeah, and he was telling us like all these different tribes.
The Anasazi
but they
not...
always had their name for themselves. Always meant the people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And their language is very concise. Like they don't have a lot of wasted words in the way that we do. You know how when people speak in English, if you really wanted to break down...
What the hell are you freaking talking about, wasted language, bro?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so much stuff that we say in modern English that's just stupid.
Especially when it's Kyle.
Yeah. Especially here. And, I mean, that's why those podcasts are so long.
We could cut them in half.
Yeah, we could. Just remove all the dumb stuff.
Yeah. So their podcast would have been like 30 minutes. And they would have talked about twice as much stuff.
Dang it.
So
have to work on that. That's great.
So yeah. So Mayapan, I believe that means, I mean, I don't know that anybody knows 100% for sure about all these translations, but it basically means like the land of us, like the land of the Maya people. And so basically, and then at Yaxchilan, which is this is a site that is in both Mexico and Guatemala, and and I believe it's lintel 24. So you see, how graphic can we get on this? Like as far as like,
it's fine.
It's
a family show.
Okay.
But you can cuss. And be graphic.
Okay. So no, not cussing. I'm just being a little graphic. So
no, that's all right.
So they wanted to have this idea that a lot of the original archaeologists, and I don't know the exact purpose behind this. I'm sure there were a lot of different purposes for this. But the original archaeologists, like Jose Calderon, I believe, this is like the 1790s when he first visited Palenque. There's a mural in the Temple of the Sun that shows two royal figures that are standing on top of slaves. So you've got these slaves that are bent over, and it's pretty obvious that these people are being enslaved. And there's also things about like their morphology that show you that they're not from the Palenque tribe. And so they're being stood on top of them. There are other things in Palenque that show that there was rivalry and enslavement. Well, Jose Calderon, this is in the late 1790s or maybe the 1780s. He goes out there and he omits all of that. And he comes back with all these murals, and he lied about he comes back with all these drawings, and he lies about what they were actually showing. And so they perpetuate this lie of like, oh yeah, the Maya were peaceful people, and this goes on forever until it just becomes so undeniable that they were just as violent as everybody else. And although there's some caveats to that, there's some interesting things that hopefully we'll touch on. So in Yaxchilan, when Yaxchilan is discovered, and this might need to be looked up. I can't remember the exact. Brett might want to look it up, but
How do you spell it?
it is Yaxchilan. When was Yaxchilan discovered?
Well, we can take a break and
yeah.
you can look this up and we can come back. This is fascinating stuff. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
this is
riveted.
great.
So let's take a quick break.
Cool.
We can look this up, get the details, and we'll come back.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Brothers of the Serpent podcast here with Luke Caverns in the cube. Yeah. Unexpected guest, unexpected local guest.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. So we're continuing on where we left off here, and you were wondering about this place I can't remember how to pronounce.
Yaxchilan. Yes. So, I was just curious when the first time it was officially mentioned by a Spaniard. So, Juan Galindo in 1833, as Brett has looked up for us, was the first guy to officially document it. Although I'm sure the Maya people around that area, who lived in the villages, knew where the ruins were. Oh, there's actually evidence that they did, because there was when I was there, up in one of the temples up near the top of the mountain, I think it's Temple 33, which is Bird Jaguar's temple. Bird Jaguar the Fourth, maybe. He was one of the kings there that built this Temple 33 for himself. I believe it was for himself. And so anyways, one of the lower temples right down next to it, there's a Mayan board game that's next to it that they would have played, and they've kind of figured out how the game would work just by studying the board. I don't think there's really any other way to know. But research on this stone board has shown that. So I want to say Yaxchilan is abandoned in 900 AD or something like that. Brett could look it up. So it's abandoned in 900 AD. And this board game is something that Maya people who lived in local villages, just like kids would, how they go run through abandoned buildings and stuff like that. There were Maya kids who would just come up from villages a few hundred years later into these ruins in the jungle and sit up in the ruins and camp out and hang out. And there's archaeological evidence that kids were up there just hanging out because their trash is there. Isn't that cool?
That is cool. That is
and
really cool.
So anyways, we're talking about these new revelations in a new world, and people are realizing that they're not sticking to their guns in the way that old world archaeologists do, and how they have these preconceived ideas of what civilizations, the way they should progress and the way they should behave. The people who study the new world are just excited to actually be on the forefront of discovery. I mean, because if you look and see Zayawas, how restricted things are. Yeah, it's Temple 33. Dedicated around, Shield Jaguar. Okay, Shield Jaguar the second. I thought it would. No, Bird Jaguar the fourth. Yeah, I was right.
Yeah, you got it
okay,
right.
So anyways, so if you look at guys like Zayawas and you look at the Ministry of Antiquities in Egypt, everything is so it's so strenuous to do, and it is that way in the Maya world. But the archaeologists, they're just showing up front. Okay, this is what the evidence points to. This is cool. Look what we've discovered. They don't have this. They're not trying to tailor the archaeological evidence to fit an idea.
Okay, I get that. But wasn't there an initial idea that the big pyramids and stuff were tombs? They're still looking for tombs under these
They
pyramids.
still call them necropolis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that,
in the Maya world or in Egypt?
no, in the Maya world.
Well, actually, they call them acropolises or acropolis, whatever.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. So, I don't want to get too far off, but you're right about the pyramids. But the only tomb I believe that's been found inside of a notable pyramid is the Temple of Inscriptions at Palenque.
Palenque. Mhm.
And so that is Pakal's tomb. And so that was found by Alberto Ruiz, I think that's his name, in the 1950s. And so he was up there and he's exploring. So they call it the Temple of Inscriptions because it tells the entire story, I believe, of Palenque and of Pakal, the king who was there. And so he's up there and he's up there at the top of Temple of Inscriptions. Have you guys seen it in person? Have you
No,
been to
we've
Palenque?
never been.
Okay.
Yeah, we've never been.
So
We got to do this.
it's massive. I mean, it's massive. You can't walk up to the top of it right now at this moment. I'm not sure if they're doing work up at the top of it. They were doing work like on the main palace.
Yeah,
and
I heard you
everything.
used to be able to go up and down, but now you can't. Right?
Yeah. And I think all that kind of happened because of COVID. I don't know. But so Alberto Ruiz is up at the top and he's studying the Temple of Inscriptions, and he looks at the floor and he sees these two holes in the floor. And I don't really know how to describe it, but he starts studying the holes and he realizes that like the wall at the temple doesn't stop at the floor. It goes down past the floor. And he's like, that's weird. And he sees these two holes. And then he starts to think that they're like leverage holes to I'm trying to think of like the right word for it. And so he actually pulls an actual Indiana Jones and gets this big, I think it's limestone slab lifted up, and there's a staircase that goes down into the temple. And so that's like 1952.
And it was filled with rubble, right? Was it?
Filled with rubble.
Yeah.
Like back-breaking amounts of rubble. And I might not have the height of the Temple of Inscriptions right. Yeah, that's the temple. I want to say, am I crazy to say it's 44 feet? I think it's taller than that. I don't know why. I don't know why I think it's 44 feet. But it's really, really tall.
That's got to be
And
higher
so-
than 44.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where the number 44 is coming from in my head.
Yeah, look at the people at the bottom of that thing.
144.
Yeah.
144. I'm sorry. Yeah. 144. Is that right?
No, 68.
Oh, 68.
It's more like 144.
All of us are wrong.
Okay. I don't
Classic
know.
Snake Bros moment there.
There's some other pyramid out there that's 144.
What is
feet
Canadian
that I'm thinking
68 feet? What does that mean? CA
of. Canadian.
68 feet. I don't trust those numbers.
So I don't know where 144 must be some Egyptian pyramid that I'm thinking of. So this one is 68 feet. It's still ridiculously tall.
Yeah.
And so he pulls up a slab that's like, I believe it's off to the right of, from our point of view, off to the right of the Temple of Inscriptions, and so he pulls up this slab and it's completely filled with rubble. Now, they spend, I think it says 3 seasons, but that might mean 3 full years.
Yeah.
Coming back at certain seasons and pulling out all of the rubble. And so they have to figure out a whole system of getting all the rubble out. And just when they think that they're down to the end, they're at the halfway point. And
man.
and so they spend a whole lot of more time and man hours finally getting it all out. And then they find some bodies in there, they find a few artifacts. And then they get down to the bottom, and there's like this big triangular slab door that they pull back. And so I believe before Alberto Ruiz went in, he asked everybody, like, turn your lights off and just sit in here and experience this moment before we walk into. They knew this was a tomb.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, they know this is a tomb. It's making, worldwide headlines, like an Egyptian-style tomb pyramid is found in Mexico. And so he asked everybody, turn off the lights and let's just sit here and let's just think about what we're about to experience when we step in.
Yeah.
So they step in, and it's this sarcophagus that, I'm not kidding you guys, is as big as this room.
Wow.
The sarcophagus is as big as this room. It's as tall as your ceiling right here before it goes to the vault. And it is as long on both sides. It's actually longer. It's 15 feet
Yeah, so it's
long.
10 by 10 by 15.
I believe so. I want to say it's actually like 6 by 7 by 15.
Okay,
I could be wrong like that. Like it's 7 feet tall or something crazy like that. And the body of it's lifted up on 2 giant stones somehow. And so it was so enormous that they didn't install it in the pyramid. They built the pyramid on top of the sarcophagus.
Yeah, so there's no denying that was there before.
Yeah,
structure was finished,
exactly. But what's crazy is it's put up on these 2 big stones. So they lifted it up, and it's one solid boulder of limestone, I believe. and the body of it is like, golly, 11 tons, and the lid is 4 tons or 5 tons or something like that. And then so I want to say pretty much immediately, like they walk in and they see it's just covered. And have you seen the thing of Pakal where he's like this? So that's him, you know, as they say, falling into Xibalba, which is the Maya underworld. And you've got the Maya tree of life, the Saba tree behind him and everything. And, you know, there's a lot of people who have their own interpretations.
He's not in a spaceship?
Yeah, there's I joked about that the whole time I was there. I was just like, yeah, I mean, the spaceship thing, that's just a little far-fetched. Like, you know, they definitely had knowledge and technology that we're not aware of, but, you know, not spaceships, obviously.
Maybe an exercise bike? Could be an exercise bike.
Yeah. So they basically, if what I've read serves me correctly, which I've always thought is a little bit strange, they look underneath it. And have you ever seen the stucco of Pakal's head before?
No.
It's like a life-size thing of Pakal's head.
No.
And you can easily find just stucco Pakal's head. And it was underneath his sarcophagus. And there may have been another one underneath there, but I think they believe that it was taken off of a statue of him in the main palace, because in the main palace, all of the royals, their heads are removed. But it's not because they think that somebody came in and took the heads off. They would build a statue of somebody, and when they died, they would remove the head, which is like,
wow.
It's one of those things that's like, it's totally foreign to our way of thinking.
Yeah.
But when you approach Mesoamerica, you leave, I mean, it's a different world. Like, it's not the same world that we understand today.
Yeah.
They thought differently than we did about everything.
That is really cool.
And so they would take the heads off, and it was like the signifying of death. Like, he's gone. He's not here anymore. Now, that might be a bit controversial, and there might be people who disagree with that, but as far as what I know, and people who study the same thing, that's kind of the conclusion.
Is that...
And,
there it is. Right there.
Yeah. So that's the stucco of Pakal's head, and I think they've done reiterations of that where they try to make it look a bit better. But that was underneath his sarcophagus, and so they put all these. Got something in my throat. Sorry about that.
Sorry, no worries.
So
Okay.
they
Button.
yeah. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So, anyways, they use all these wedges to lift up the 15 or the 5-ton sarcophagus lid. And so Alberto Ruiz, he's been like, you know, itching to fully uncover, you know, whatever this mystery is. And so this 15-ton sarcophagus lid is sitting on these little wooden wedges, like probably real shaky, and it's just enough room for him to fit his body in, and he climbs in underneath it. And it turns out, after they lifted the lid, there's another lid, and it's like outlined, and it's got the 2 pinholes exactly like the roof of it did. And so, but the pinholes, there wasn't anything underneath it. And so he gets one of his old like 1950s flashlights and he shines it in, and Pakal is looking directly at him.
Oh my God.
And yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is awesome.
Yeah. So Pakal is looking directly at him, and he's wearing this like jade mask, which over time has kind of crumbled and everything. But Pakal is there with like all of his jewelry and his jade jewelry, because I don't think that they were. I'm sure there's gold in Mexico, obviously, but they value jade and obsidian, so he was covered in jade.
Yeah, the watcher
And,
posted up there that some of the best jade artifacts ever found in Mesoamerica were found. With
And his mask in particular is really cool. So he had like I believe like all these different rings and bracelets and there's something that's I don't do a lot of research in this, but he's holding I believe he's holding a cube in one hand and a sphere in the other. Ooh. And it's like highly debated what that means, because I could be totally wrong about this, but I think it might be the only instance of a king holding that in his hand, and obviously that's significant. If he's holding
he's buried with it that
way.
Yeah,
he's holding a sphere and a cube.
I mean, immediately I think of sacred geometry.
As well. Yeah,
the feminine and the masculine are represented as the circle and the square.
Exactly.
The circle is like really undefinable, and the square is very definable, and so they have this. There's this idea of the squaring of the circle, where you take the same, the circumference of the circle and make it a square. And so there's a method for doing that. And it's just, I don't know. That's what it reminds me of.
And that was certainly things that they were aware of. All of their cities are astronomically aligned all across Mesoamerica, at least during the pre-classic and classic period. In the post-classic, they start getting lazy and they start trying to copy the magnificence of older sites. Like,
so what is this we're looking at here? This is the jade mask that he's wearing, or what?
Yeah. So that's his jade mask, and he's got his jade necklaces, and then he's holding the sphere. And I think in the other hand he has a cube, but I could be wrong about that.
Does
you
kind
can't
of look like a cube.
You can't really see it here. Yeah. And then so yeah, I mean, there is no there is.
Oh yeah, it kind of looks like a cube there.
It
I see
does,
the edges,
yeah.
and there's like.
So yeah, I see all the jade jewelry, rings on every finger.
Right. Yeah. So there is no
kinda,
definitive. Yeah. We got something going on down there.
So I've read this in different places, but was he like relatively tall compared to the?
Yes.
Okay.
He was 5'8", 5'7", something like that. Yeah, he was a bit taller, and that might be because, and this is something that I don't even know where you would find this on the internet. He did not have a claim to the throne in Palenque.
Oh.
His mom, it was orchestrated in some way. It was orchestrated. He was brought from a different city. I don't know that they mentioned who his father is. If he had, I think he did have a father because he did build a temple, and I went and saw the temple. I have a photo of me standing in front of it. It's off in the jungle outside of Palenque, and but they never mentioned who his father is. But his mom and his dad and himself were brought to Palenque from a different city, and nobody knows. I don't believe they know the name of it. They don't know where it is. They don't know what it's called. But it was a small city, and it's like the origins of Palenque are like lost to time. You know, the city where he originates from. But he was brought to Palenque, and it's this 12-year-old kid who comes into this suffering city that's not doing very well at the time. Palenque is being just absolutely torn up by Tonina, which is a different kingdom, and I think they have a lot of influence potentially from Teotihuacan at the time, which is all the way in Mexico City. So
Wow.
This is like you're talking about all the way across
that's a
Mexico.
long way. Yeah.
And so Palenque is not doing very well. And this little boy is brought in at 12 years old to become the king of Palenque, and he turns it into the capital of like the Chiapas, like the lowlands area, and he built all these pyramids. He builds I believe he built the main palace. He built a whole bunch of pyramids. He has pyramids built for his wife, which are right next to his. You can probably see it in the
But
photos.
is there information on how this is accomplished? Not just. I mean, so like he starts building pyramids. Well, that requires wealth.
Yeah,
and-
of course.
Yeah, so he comes into a struggling city. Is it clear what he did to change the economics or the situation? Did he raid other people and take their wealth, or was he actually like changing?
You know, this was something that I kind of pressed for an answer for when I was there, but that's kind of one of those things.
They just don't
that's kind
know.
of one of those things that's just out there. I mean, it's talked about like how great he is and all the things that he did, this, that, and the other, but the dynamics are not there. Now, here's what's really interesting: is there were definitely blueprints. Like they had paper, you know, the Maya codices that were burned, like the book burnings that Diego de Landa.
Yeah.
You know, they had paper, and Dr. Barnhart, like the guy who's my mentor, he's discovered codices before, but they were like mush, like it was just like goo. You know what I mean? It's really hard to find them in the right state, and I think there's like 4 out there that we know that exist.
Yep.
And I should say this for everybody listening. So it said that pyres, multiple pyres. So a pyre, I'm guessing is the size of the studio.
Yeah.
And you know, just
Huge piles of
just
stuff burning.
mounds of books. And their books were like the sticky notes, the ones that you pull out and they're like connected on each side, you know.
Yeah.
And that's how they wrote their books. It was one long piece of paper and they fold it and everything. And so you're talking about multiple pyres of books, and books are real, they were real thin, and all their knowledge just like burnt to ash. And so there's 4 left of I don't know, thousands. I mean, thousands of them.
Yeah.
And so there's 4 left, and there's definitely though the Maya people. So they still like the Lakanha, they hold true to their like Maya heritage, and they have codices, and they will not show them to
Yeah, of
anybody. But
course.
somewhere deep in the jungle, they still have the codices, and they still read them, and nobody knows what's there. So along with that, I was also talking to Dr. Barnhart. I was like, they had blueprints, right? Like they had blueprints of how to build these, because it's scientific. Like they would create their own concrete. Like I don't know the exact processes behind it, but I believe that they would have like they would set sometimes the under part of their structures on fire to heat up the concrete to get it to solidify. I mean, they had science, and these would go from city to city to city to city. So it's likely that they maybe had architects.
Like you had a guild or something.
Yeah. You had architects for hire. You know what I mean?
That's
like
cool.
like these guys knew how to build this stuff, but that's not. There's nothing left of that. It was just burned.
think-
Right. So
destroyed.
if there was information on how he may have, going back to this question on how he may have like improved the situation in the city where he can then afford to build all these pyramids, is totally lost.
Totally
And
lost.
The only evidence we have left is like he shows up and suddenly he's building this. He's got these big building
Yeah,
projects.
yeah.
Is there a possibility
What's
that
written in
there's
stone.
still a library somewhere that is? I mean, I know you're
Definitely,
saying some people have,
definitely,
but
definitely.
like maybe because there's so much under the jungle that they're just with the lidar, they're
100%.
realizing like, oh my
100%.
gosh, this is a giant city. We're gonna go into a hole somewhere down there, and we're gonna come to this library, right?
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah.
that could happen.
Yeah.
And there,
Yeah,
there are new processes now. Like you were just saying, your mentor found something. They're just mush, but if it's contained in a cylinder, anything, if it's not just a pile of mush, there are new interesting processes now where they can take that very degraded pile and scan it,
And they can scan it and
then
read
they
all
can
the pages.
read it, yeah,
Right. Isn't that
without
amazing?
unfolding it, without destroying it. Yeah, so you know about that, yeah.
And
So maybe if we find some piles of mush, they could still be read.
sure. Yeah. And that's funny you say red, because they were red. They actually
okay,
were
yeah.
red. Yeah. So they were written in red. But yeah, they could still be red and red.
Red, yes.
And so here's what's interesting, guys, is like just as many lost cities as you think could be out there, there's way more.
Perfect.
Way more.
I love this.
See, that's exactly what I want.
There's way more. Like I hear people go, oh yeah, there's no more possibilities of somebody just walking off into the jungle and finding a lost city. My ass. Dr. Barnhart did it.
My ass.
Yeah, my ass. Yeah.
Full of puns today. All
Dr.
right.
Barnhart did it when he was my age. He found a city that he named Ma'ashna, and which means monkey house. And he found it in northwest Belize in the Orange Walk area. And he was it's like him and one other guy, 2 gringos. They go out into the jungle, and they find this old British logging road. So the British people from the 1800s, they would cut down these logging trails, and so I believe he found like a wagon out there, all kinds of crazy stuff, and he found like the remnants of a road. And so during that maybe 2 or 3 year time, he found a city out there with pyramids and everything, and at the top of one of these pyramids, like in the temple, were these howler monkeys that were living there, and they were very displeased that some people had showed up and were now
Showed up
messing
and
around their
invaded
home.
our pyramid.
And so the howler monkeys are up there going, ooh, and so they named it Monkey House, like Ma'ashna.
yeah.
And so I mean, and that's just like, dude, that's one of thousands. I mean, there's so many cities. There are cities that are mentioned, like there's a place called Bonampak that I visited in Chiapas, and Bonampak was getting bullied by a city called White Dog, and I don't know how you pronounce that in Maya, but it was getting bullied by a city called White Dog. They've never found White Dog. They know that it's around there, and if you go on Google Earth, there's this La Condon jungle. It's this giant green spot at the bottom of Mexico, bordering the Usamasenta River. And so it's this remote area. At the very north tip of it, there's this little cleared spot, and that's Bonampak. And then there's 50 miles straight down and 25 miles across of just pure jungle. I guarantee you White Dog is in that jungle. And
What's going to kill us in that jungle?
Everything.
Okay, so you want to know? So I'm like, I've never told anybody this. I'm like putting together expeditions right now. I'm gonna go, and and so the Loch and Doan jungle is like, I would love to do that, but that's kind of like a Percy Fawcett thing where you're just headed out in the jungle without really a lead.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of exploring it, and you're kind of using common sense. Like there's a giant lake. If we pulled it up on Google Earth, there's this giant lake.
We can do that in the next segment.
Yeah. There's this giant lake called Loch and Ha, and it looks beautiful out there. I mean, there's mountains that rise up around it. Nobody has been out there to take a photo. Like
We got to dive in that
They've
lake.
flown over it. They've taken a photo, and it's this just janky aerial photo. But I'm telling you, if there were Maya people, they'd be
would have
living
been on the lake.
right next to that lake. Fresh water. There's a river that goes down it just to the east, within got to be within a mile or so.
Isn't there evidence that the water table is much higher now as well? Because I know there's things underwater in the cenotes that used to be not underwater.
Yeah.
So you would think that maybe if there was a city, it might actually just be in the lake.
Yes, and there are things I believe like that in Chiapas that have been, the water has risen. Well, it's risen and it's flooded the inside of temples and chambers and stuff like that for sure. But I know that there were like structures that were built next to the river that now the river is higher and it's covered the structure and basically just destroyed it because the running water just destroys it. There's stuff like that going on, but as far as the Loch and Ha or the Loch and Doan jungle, that's something I want to do. But what's top of my list is going to Belize. I have a couple particular places I want to go. I'll share them here. I'm not, nobody else is going to go do it. And then there's a place
Except us.
Yeah. There's a place in Yaxchilan that I want to go, and so I don't know if we want to,
Yes.
pause it here. And,
We'll pause it here and we'll come back.
Okay.
This is fantastic, man. Thank you so much. This is great.
Cool.
Dude, if we discover a city, we're naming it Tres Vatos Locos.
Yeah, we could do that.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, Brothers of the Serpent podcast, having a fascinating discussion with Luke Caverns. We're definitely glad we got him on the show. This has been excellent, and we're going to continue. Yeah, high five there, buddy. This has been fantastic. So you're really schooling us on the Maya, and just your passion for the subject definitely comes through. So I don't have any questions. Just wherever you were going, keep going.
Just keep going. Tell us more about things we can find in the jungle.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest allure to me, man. Like I just there's a lot of people who get caught up in the esoterics of stuff, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of people, they love archaeoastronomy, this, that, and the other. Me, man, I like architecture in cities, and I want to know where things are that nobody else knows where stuff is. Like I am just, I guess as Indiana Jones as it gets. Like I just want to know that there's something out there that needs to be found, and it needs to be seen, and it needs to be documented, and other people need to see it, and everybody needs to get excited. You know what I mean? That's just what I like, that, and it's just it's purposeful, and people spent a lot of time and all their resources and their whole life making these structures, and to find it and then show other people, that's just the greatest thing in my mind, and
really
to be cool. Like, there's nothing better than the feeling of taking a step somewhere and knowing that nobody else has been here in a long time.
Yeah.
And what you're about to see is something that not many people are brave enough to do, or want to take the risk to do it, or want to travel this far to be down here in this jungle around people whose language they don't speak very well, to see something that ancient people built. It's just enthralling. Like, I'm obsessed with it, you know.
I have a similar feeling when you know, finding an arrowhead. I know it's like, it's not a city, but it's that exact same feeling of like, no one has touched this artifact in a long time, and somebody made it with their hands. And
Since the last guy to touch it.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, also it was a part of their livelihood. It has its story. It's all that stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
And a city, and man, wow.
Yeah.
We gotta find a city.
That's my goal. Even a small one.
Yeah.
Even a small one.
Yeah.
So
One traffic light.
I've got
One pyramid. That's all it needs.
Yeah. That's all it needs.
Yeah.
It's just one main like central area with a pyramid.
Yeah.
You know? And the pyramid could be 15 feet tall.
That's right.
It's not a big ask.
Yeah.
Not a big ask. We can do this.
So but yeah, I've got a couple little areas on Google Earth I'd like to share with you guys.
right.
You know.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So this is Yaxchilan, and this is it's in Mexico. The side that's on the lower left side
Do you want
is
to use
in
this
Mexico.
mouse here?
Sure. Yeah. I've never used one of these, but
Oh, man.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's just like Mac. you
Yeah,
know?
zooming, two fingers.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
And two finger moving around the map.
Got it. Okay. So Yaxchilan is kind of like an island, right? I mean, so this dark green area, this remote, untouched wilderness, this is all, I mean, most of this is untouched too. This is kind of like swampy area. There's not really people here, but there are people who live out here. So this is Yaxchilan. And so the Maya people, you know, some of them lived along the rivers. And so they lived here because this is a really good defensive area. I mean, like, where can you
it's
be
perfect.
approached?
This is a meander on
Right.
the river. It's beautiful.
So you can be approached right here, and I don't know that it's known for sure how long people have lived here, and I'll tell you why. We know how long the lineage goes here, and I want to say it ends somewhere around 900 AD. So what's really interesting about this site is Yaxchilan acted as a gateway for like the war kings of Tikal, and I want to say that Copan in northern Honduras, like all the way down southeast, came up here, and they would have to go through Yaxchilan. And the reason that they would do that is because these rivers aren't easy to cross. This is a huge river, and the river's flowing really fast, and it's deep, and there's crocodiles everywhere.
Oh,
Wow.
And
That's the kind of moat you want.
yeah. And so the Maya did something right here in this city that nobody else did. I couldn't even tell you when it was done next. They built the world's first suspension bridge at this city.
Oh, wow.
Where I bet you can see the base of it. Yeah, that's it right there. So this is the base. I believe this is the base of the suspension bridge, and it was also over here, and it's in my video as well. It's just like a little nub, but they've
tell people your channel. You've got a channel. Is it just
it's just my name. It's just Luke Caverns.
Luke Caverns.
You can find all my little videos. I haven't done like a lot of really in-depth stuff. Like I did one really in-depth video on Baalbek.
Yep.
The
I was
Baalbek
starting to watch
megalith-
that. As soon as I saw
megaliths.
Baalbek, I'm like watching this.
Yeah, and so I did that, but I haven't done anything that's super in depth about the Maya, just because this is like my actual work. I'm gonna base a lot of my career around this.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of taking my time with it. I know a lot of stuff about Egypt already, and it's easy for me to make these videos. But with the Maya, that it's just going to take me some time to like get to a point where I'm comfortable making these videos. But I can sit on here and rattle off stuff all day.
This is great. Yeah.
So at Yaxchilan, they built this, I want to say it was like 40 feet tall, giant suspension bridge. And so on the sides of the river right here, you can't really tell, but this is like a steep incline, probably about 40 feet, and about on this side is a steep incline of 40 feet.
Yeah.
So they built the city, like there's ruins all in here. And right here,
God, you can't even tell.
if I'm looking, this might not be the exact spot, although I think as I'm looking, yeah, it is. So right here, there is a place where I'm kidding you not. It is like it's like customs where you come into where you come into an ancient city. It looks like an office building, and so people would come across this bridge that was 40 feet tall, and it was held up by like these ancient suspension wires that they would make, and they'd walk across a wooden bridge, and it was capable of holding armies, like entire armies of people coming across the bridge to get across the Usamasenta. This is one of the only places where you could make it across, because I don't know how common, there were people who likely had boats for fishing, but like if you wanted to move a whole army of people,
it'd take forever.
It's not
ferry would
practical.
take forever,
yeah. And where would you get the boat? Like, would you have to build a boat right there? It's just not practical to bring.
And there's
an
no
army of
nearby
people.
fords. Is that what you're saying? There's no nearby place to cross it where you can walk, where the river spreads out.
No, I mean, yeah. You could scroll. We could zoom all the way out, and the river's pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's
you
deep and
all
fast,
throughout the country. Yeah.
Okay.
And so they knew that Yaxchilan was on this other place, and there's more ruins over here. So you would kind of check in, and you would go across the river, and
pay a toll.
Yeah, you would pay a toll, and usually in some cases, they guessed that toll was like, hey, we are. I can't remember if it was. I think it was Kalak Mul that was coming in, and Kalak Mul wanted to attack Palenque, and so Kalak Mul is like much more north in the Petan region. So Kalak Mul is like way up here, and they'd come all the way down here and meet Yaxchilan to go all the way over to Palenque, which is over here. I'm not sure why they did this. They probably didn't realize like they could have just gone straight over, or maybe there were territories here that they didn't want to mess with.
Oh yeah.
So they would come down here. They go to Yaxchilan, check in at Yaxchilan,
like the way station and something.
Yeah.
Or there's a good road, maybe.
Yeah. Well, they had roads. Yeah, they would build roads that were like 10 meters. They'd lift roads 10 meters off the ground so it wouldn't flood, and they just had highways going all the way across Mesoamerica. So
Can I take a quick tangent on this road thing?
Yeah.
I saw a place in, I think it was Costa Maya, and they had roads, but there were like towers built on the roads. Like, in other words, it's like you got this giant elevated road, as you say, and they were still cutting it out of the jungle. It's just going off. It's like 10, 12 feet wide.
Is this thing that's like a mile long? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. It was, but in the middle of the road is like this, like a little tower built maybe 8, 9, 10 feet tall, and it was open on the inside with little windows.
Wow.
But there was no door into it. So it's like, it was the strangest thing.
That's weird.
I was like, this looks like the top of a wall
Yeah.
rather than a road.
I would love to see that. I don't even know.
Okay.
Well, that sounds like
that
sounds like a light. Like you have a fire in there. And it's like a light.
But then how do you
Could
even
be.
clean out the ashes? It was the strangest thing.
Could
to
be.
me.
Yeah, any kind of speculation
Or a
like that is
torch or-
perfectly valid.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't know
Right.
what these guys were thinking. So,
right.
Getting down to it, I'm just
Going
kind
back
of like
to the map here.
Yeah. I'm just kind of setting up like the importance of Yaxchilan.
Yeah.
This was
is
the
great.
midway, and so Kalak Mul, I believe it's Kalak Mul. I'm not. I mean, you've got people who dedicate their entire life to studying the history of Palenque, and I kind of present videos on all these other different sites. So there's some things that I may not be 100% correct on, and that the archaeologists who specialize on it may not be 100% correct on. But I believe it was Kalak Mul somewhere up in that might be Kalak Mul.
Yeah, that looks like it.
And so they, okay. So they would come down, they would meet maybe Tikal, or they would come all the way down through here. And they would probably tell Yaxchilan, because Kalak Mul is like, you're talking about a powerful city. So when we talk about the Maya aren't just one civilization, it's hundreds of civilizations. City-states.
Okay.
Yeah. But even that is kind of like, states, you would think that they're like all together, but they're not. They're just their own civilizations completely. It's like it is a city state, but it's more like a city country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they were also learning from each other, right?
They were. Yeah.
And probably people went and worked in one city and then maybe went and worked in another city. Like you were saying,
Sure,
they used the concrete type of...
The suggestion of possible guilds that were shared across the different... So this is why you see similarities in architecture across the whole thing, even though they kind of are. It's like the
Yeah.
Greek city states, right? It's similar to that.
Yeah. And you see like architectural things like evolve like that.
Yes.
Like all of a sudden everybody's just doing the same thing. You know what I
Right,
mean, they're
yeah.
all copying each other. And so what's crazy is just to tell you about that. So Teotihuacan, like, you know the massive pyramids that are in Mexico City?
Yes. Yeah.
So their influence was so great right here that they influenced everything that went on here. And so Copan is down here. That's like one of the most notorious Maya archaeological sites that's in northern Honduras. I believe that's that right there. In Mexico City, the Teotihuacanos, which nobody knows who built Teotihuacan, by the way.
Yeah.
Nobody actually knows, which is crazy. You have this
Yeah.
giant site, and they think it was the Toltecs, but then they've retracted that and they say, okay, well, the Toltecs didn't build Teotihuacan, the Teotihuacanos did.
Right.
And
Answer
so-
done.
Yeah.
Next mystery.
So that's so
Mystery solved.
so we know that Teotihuacan is like one of the most influential places, and they had highways. Like, I was flying from Mexico City to Villahermosa, and I'm looking down at the ground. I'm like, these guys just walked this whole way. These freaking crazy people. And so they got these big highways going down, and of course, they had a highway going to Palenque. And so down here, these are kind of like where the Maya originally start. They start right here in the Fertile Crescent, and then they kind of branch out. And they knew the Olmec, which the Olmec lived up here and down here. They kind of
And that was like would that be towards the end of the Olmec civilization when they were
towards the
interacting?
end. Towards the end, yeah. And then they kind of like some of them kind of infused, like they just kind of diffused and
Yeah.
infused into other cultures.
Okay,
And so
yeah.
the Olmec, they influenced a lot of Mesoamerica as far as kingship. They were the first ones that established, like, we have hierarchies, we have kings, this, that, and the other. And there's even
And we have rubber.
Yeah, there's even a little bit of Olmec influence in Belize over here. So you have Teotihuacan over here influencing all these places, and there's a mural in Palenque of a Tlaloc warrior, which is only seen in a mural in Teotihuacan. And then there are kings down in here who have I don't know, but there are like glyphs depicting them that are only seen at Teotihuacan, which is like really interesting. And then there's stuff in Teotihuacan that comes from Peru. Like,
Whoa.
yeah. I mean, you're talking about, that's getting into a whole other thing, but that's just kind of one of those cool things.
Episode 2.
There are monkey skeletal remains that are only found in the Amazon in Teotihuacan. So it was like they would bring caravans of like these animals and stuff and sell them, blah, blah, blah.
Like a circus type of
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, so getting down to it, that's kind of setting up Yaxchilan, okay? So what's really interesting is when I was in Yaxchilan, I have a map of Yaxchilan that's not available to like, you're not gonna be able to find it on the internet.
Okay.
And it's a full survey of the whole site. And there's more stuff there because Dr. Barnhart had approached INA, which is that's like the Ministry of Antiquities for Egypt. INA is the same thing for Mexico. And so he approached INA and he was like, I'll map all the rest of the ruins. Let's zoom into the ruins actually. And so this whole island area, it could be surveyed, this little island thing.
Yeah.
But only what you see right here. So you've got kind of like the main royal neighborhoods, and then you've got, I believe this is Bird Jaguar's Acropolis, and then these are like it's like the triad temples that could have been like a lookout point, but most likely they had to do with all these are astronomically aligned, to different, like Venus and different things like that, stars that they put great emphasis on, and whoever the architects were, whoever they put, whatever they put emphasis on. And so just this little bit is mapped out. And I can tell you, so this is Temple 33, getting from here to here is like, I mean, if you're not like pretty fit, it's tough getting, that's a very long way. Even though it doesn't look like it, it's really far away. And so from the river, you can only see like this front edge right here. So Dr. Barnhart said he wanted to map all of it. So it goes like all the way out here and beyond. And he was going to do it for like 10 grand, something crazy like that. And they turned him down,
What?
which they shouldn't have. And I think that they turned him down because the Mexican government at some point they want to build a dam that's going to raise the water level, and it's going to flood the whole city.
No.
Yeah.
All right, we're definitely
We gotta
going.
go.
Exactly.
We're going now.
But here's the thing, guys.
Let's go. Let's get plane tickets.
So this
Can
is
you just get a new tab and go to Expedia?
yeah. Let's do it. So all throughout here, so let's get into a little bit of like wildlife biology. This entire place is absolutely infested with howler monkeys. I mean, infested. And it's so loud you can't possibly escape them. Well, the reason is because they lived in these jungles and they're being hunted by, jaguars, blah, 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 blah. So some of them find their way across here, and this is like a utopian place because no jaguar is going to cross this narrow place. They're very reclusive.
They're roamers too.
Yeah. They're reclusive. They're not going to be like close to water. They're not going to go in a place where they're going to be way out in the remote jungle where it's wide and open, that, and the other. And so jaguars don't really come into here. So
that's good for explorers.
Exactly. And it's good for little animals and stuff like that. So there are wildlife biologists who have come here and have known Dr. Barnhart, and they go all around this area following troops which is like what you call families of howler monkeys, and they're following the troops. They said the entire place, the entire little island here was covered in temples. And this is something you'll never find on the internet. This is like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like in the Maya world, it's so mysterious. You got to know people to know something, right?
Yeah.
And so they said everywhere they went, they were tripping over. There were like holes in the ground that would lead to chambers. There were temples that were in the middle of the jungle. There were giant pyramids out there. There were this, that, and the other. And what
Can you give an estimate on like the size? What are we looking at in terms of size of this area?
We can 2,000 feet scale at the bottom.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so that's at least a mile across, maybe more.
Yeah.
You can do a measurement?
So let's do Yaxchilan all the way down here. It's pretty much a circle. So
2 miles.
So that's So
2 miles. Okay.
Yeah. So let's go to miles. So it's it's 2 miles by 2 miles.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know.
So a mile radius, 2 miles in diameter, roughly speaking. Wow.
So
that's a lot.
but it's up and down and up and down.
Yeah, I can tell. Like
You can see the elevation.
topography is very regular.
Exactly.
It's got this interesting pattern.
You can see if I go like this.
Yeah.
You can see.
It is rough.
And then I'll zoom in.
It's
Let me
so
zoom in.
cool.
Yeah.
And in my video, did you see like when I'm on the river, you can see the mountain go straight up. It just
No,
goes.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it just goes straight up.
Which video is this?
Where I travel here, I've got a video where
What's
I'm going.
it called? So people
it's-
can check it out.
Yeah, it's like Lost Temples of Yaxchilan or something
Okay,
like that.
all right, cool.
And so there's video footage of me on the speedboat, and I'm going through here, and I'm videoing this right here, and I mean, look how steep that is.
Yeah, it
right
is
there.
steep, yeah.
It's just straight up, and so you would think like surely there's not temples on top of the mountains, right? No, there are. There are. Yeah. Everywhere, even in Palenque, like these guys were so creative. And they wanted to express themselves in so many different ways, and the kings were very creative. They were like the top of that mountain. I want to build something up there. In Palenque, even in the places that you would never suspect, like that mountaintop up there, Dr. Barnhart had been up there, and there was a platform there. And he concluded, this is all the way up back over in Palenque. There's this big cliff mountaintop that overlooks the city. And when he was mapping it, he climbs up to the top of Palenque, and he's up on top of this platform. And he finds this like flattened platform up on top of like the highest point above Palenque where he didn't think that any ruins would be. And so he starts thinking like what were they doing up here? And then they thought, well, maybe it's just a lookout point because Palenque had been sacked by Tonina. It had been sacked by Calakmul or Caracol or something like that. Or maybe Copan. Palenque had been run through a couple times. And so he thought maybe they needed to build some kind of like defensive place to be able to overlook the flat land,
See somebody coming.
because at the bottom of Palenque it's all flat and you can see people coming, and he was like, maybe it's a place for, to give somebody, like if the king wanted to stand up here and give the people below him an address, and he's sitting up there like early on a Sunday morning talking to somebody down there, or I mean talking to somebody here with him, and they're just like walking around like shouting, like thinking like what are they doing? his coworkers were at the bottom and they could hear every word he was saying.
Wow.
Like I don't even know how far away, like a quarter of a mile away, he's at the top of the mountain and it's reverberating perfectly. And they realized like somebody during that time realized that standing up there you could speak down to the bottom and everybody could hear you. So it probably was like a lookout point, to be able to tell everybody in the city, get prepared, somebody's coming, or if the king wanted to stand up there and
Give an address.
make an address. And they could have easily made like a bullhorn. You know what I mean? Something that's to magnify sound. They could have easily made that and we'd have no proof of it today. But they could have easily done something like that. So with Yaxchilan, what Dr.
You're listening to the Maya broadcast.
Yeah. So with Yaxchilan, sorry, there's just so much to
keep
say.
going. This is awesome.
So with Yaxchilan, that little narrow part, what Dr. Barnhart, and I reference him a lot, and he's an academic through and through, and what he's kind of told me, like, what you might do, this is not paid for by a university. This is just a guy who's curious going out there and checking it out. He has said, if you go out there, go to that narrow part. He's like, I bet you there are defensive structures there to watch that defensive part so that nobody could come through and they had runners. They had people who could run super fast through the jungle. And so he speculates that on both sides there are probably ruins there where they would be watching the river and they would have fortifications. So about right in
the narrow part.
Yeah. So he thinks that probably
the breach in the moat
along these sides, there are going to be structures somewhere just right on the coast where Maya people would have been watching for, rival
invaders from the south.
Yeah. Like invaders from trying to come through here or coming on boats, and they probably had lanes like little highways, or maybe it was like right along the river. They had like little trails where somebody would just sprint for 2 miles to say, hey, these people are coming. And so that's one of like my imminent expeditions that I'm going on. I'm gonna go right there, and I'm gonna start in. I don't want to be. He recommended having the boat guys like drop us off here, and maybe we make our way back. We might do that, or we might just start up here so you get dropped off on a boat, and we'll start here and just trace the entire. We'll do like all the outside,
the entire meander.
Yeah, the entire like perimeter all the way until here, and then we'll maybe go back after a day, or we'll get picked up down here, something like that. The problem is there's crocodiles all through here. And then so we'll do that for one day, and then we'll
giant snakes with legs.
Yeah, and then we'll come back and do the other side. And then at some point when we're comfortable, maybe get dropped off here, and like we'll do
the middle.
We'll do 3 lanes. So we'll do a lane here, we'll do a lane down the middle, and then we'll do a lane to the left. And so I'm putting down a little team to basically all I'm gonna do is I've done a little bit of research as far as the most convenient way of surveying these sites and getting them drawn out. So I'll take a ton of photos, ton of videos, but I'll also get some of the more significant sites measured. And I'll just turn it over. I'll just give it to Ina. Like, here, this is for free.
That's
great. I'm gonna take the credit. But
Yeah.
So that's one of the first ones.
I can hold a tape measure, bro.
Yeah.
I'm good at holding tape measures.
Yeah. The problem is it. Yeah, it's tough, man.
I know.
I know. So,
I can hold tape measures in tough places.
I have a really great machete.
a really great machete. Yeah. So staying in Mexico. So this is the Lacandon jungle, and this was connected to, at one point, it was obviously connected all the way up here to Yaxchilan. It was pretty much the whole
dark
thing.
green area.
Yeah. So all this is like cultivated land. You know what I mean? All these little striations that you see that aren't dark green. That's just area that people have been farming for the most part. And so if you want to see, I think that the Lacandon jungle right here is like the perfect representation of how much we know about the Maya. So ignore these little cultivated parts. This is just where like Maya people actually live here. This is where a lot of the Lacandon Maya live, and down here. So we know we know about these ruins on the outskirts. We know about Yaxchilan. Bonampak is going to be right in here as well. Yeah, so there's Bonaparte. So I was here in January, and so you take this one road down, and there's this one road that goes down here, and Bonaparte speaks about, and here's like an old airplane landing strip.
Yeah, that's like an
not in use
airstrip, yeah.
It's not in use anymore. It's like totally overgrown.
Okay.
And there's this really nice little like Lacandone mall that's right here, where these Maya people they hand make their own little trinkets, and you buy it for nothing, but they're really nice. I've got like a ton of them.
We could
in my
like a
office.
glove it onto that landing strip.
Yeah. And so I was here, and I was here at Bonaparte, and so Bonaparte speaks about, I believe they speak about the city called White Dog that sacked them. And so if you see, this is pretty far into the jungle, but I'm kind of giving a metaphor here in some way, but this road, as deep as it goes into the jungle, we know about this much, okay? But there's also this much left to learn.
Yeah, just miles and miles
All
and miles
of
nothing.
this. All of that is remote jungle where nobody lives.
Yeah.
And there's nothing out there. And so, White Dog, I would speculate, they think that it may have been found north of Bonaparte. Even if it had, there's another city down here, and as far as like a pretty good measurement is as far as Yaxchilan is from Bonaparte, half or that full distance is to where the next city would be. They've made it to where like I don't know, we could break that down in miles, but it's usually like as far as one city is from the other, you can expect to find another one within like half to the same distance. And so they're all about this far apart.
As long as you go in the right direction.
Yeah. So there's going to be another one here or another one here or another one here.
Yeah.
So you got to think like from one city, how many other places can you put a city,
Yeah.
And so most certainly, so there's a river that goes along here. So the people from Bonaparte, they would have made like their own aqueducts. They would have made their own reservoirs to store their water. They had fresh water like streams and rivers nearby. And so you've got a river.
Is this that lake you were talking about?
Yeah,
So,
see the
so
lake.
here's a freshwater river, and this is the Lacanha Lake. There is no photo that you can find of anybody that I've ever seen who has walked to this lake on foot. Ever. The only thing I've ever seen is like a helicopter or like a Cessna photo that's taken of it, and it's
Yeah.
just super low quality, blurry. Dude, if there's a Maya city, I guarantee you there is one
It's around that lake
right
somewhere.
here in this area. Oh, for sure. I mean, why would it not be there? But then if you look, there are other places. I'm used to looking at this on my laptop.
There's a couple of little-
But look at this. Look at this right here.
I see that.
Now that kind of looks like the Carolina Bays to me. I don't know why.
Wow,
It's
yeah,
kinda
that's like a
cool.
little maybe. And the river's right there too.
But
so
and then the
there's
river's right
something
here.
going on.
So look at this, and then look at this. Look at this flat area, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
kinda
I
cleared
mean,
right there.
yeah, nobody really knows, but you'll see a lot of clear areas. And as you start going north, there are some little
Little villages or something.
villages. There's even some like you see these right here. This is where people live.
Okay.
So even kind of up in this general little area, as it gets a little further south, there are some houses out here.
So
but
can you go? You could go to those nearby villages and start asking them like, has anybody ventured into the jungle? Have they seen
Yeah,
anything?
yeah.
Which direction?
the problem
did
is
they go?
the problem is they all speak Maya. A lot of them don't even speak Spanish.
Oh.
Yeah, so think about that. That's crazy, right? So
So it's like Yucatan the whole time.
yeah.
I don't know what you're saying the whole time.
Yucatan.
Yeah.
So check this out. So out here so I've tried to do a lot of research about this, but you see
look at
where
that.
these are like flat. Well, I'm sorry, I think that might be like but see this right here. This could be an ancient reservoir. This could be something that was dug. And I'm not a geologist. I'm not 100% sure about this, but this could be something. I don't know that anybody
see the
will be
cursor
until
real
they
quick?
go out there.
Yeah.
But
you
but
gotta
that could
check
be
it.
something that was dug 1,500 years ago.
Yeah.
For a city that we just can't see because there's a canopy there, right? And
Yes.
so, I've never actually looked at this exactly right here, but there's tons of.
They're
this right
definitely
here.
depressions. I mean, look at you can see the footage there, 847 feet, and it just goes up. It goes up in that direction, and in this direction.
You checking the elevation?
Yeah.
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 So they are depressions.
So,
Dry ones.
you know,
yeah.
and they would build these reservoirs, and look how close it is to the river.
I see the river,
So,
yeah.
So say there's this straight line, you know, you might be out there and I don't know, I'm just spitballing, but you know, say like you can kind of notice a straight line. So they build like an aqueduct system, and
yeah.
so they funnel the water here, and then they have a reservoir. And when I was at Palenque, I have photos. There are tunnels going under the ground. Like you can be walking along the jungle, and all of a sudden you hear a river like below your feet, and you realize you're standing on stones. And if you shine a flashlight between the stones, they built underwater rivers that are completely encased, floor, walls, and ceiling. And there are tunnels to funnel the water. So they had their own
below ground aqueducts. Like,
yes, they had their own plumbing systems, like all kinds of stuff.
Man.
Yeah, you look at the lowest part here, 848 feet, and then you go over to the river, it's 842 feet. So before this was probably had filled with sediment and whatever else, it could have been deeper. So lower than the level of the river.
Yeah. And all you need is a little bit. You just want that water to flow nice and gently.
Yeah, you just need a little bit.
Yeah.
And they could have also, manufactured how deep the aqueduct was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the river could have been higher.
Yep.
So this is something that the Maya were doing from the very beginning, like Coelho in Belize, and we haven't really even touched on Belize. So I've got a couple sites that are like here in the jungle that I want to go check, but Lacanha is like the Lacandone jungle is like the last on my list. That's so I would need like a really strong group of people. I would need a really strong lead because it's the biggest area. Yeah, that's right. So I don't even
we haven't been looking at the watchers.
Don't get distracted by the watcher.
Yeah, Nahuatl. So that's kind of like the last on my list. So the next thing I want to do, if you guys, want to.
Oh, you want to go back to the map?
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Okay,
We're right up at a break.
okay.
Let's take one more break. We'll come back. This is fantastic.
Okay.
We need more Indiana Jones music, though.
Cool.
We'll be right back.
Awesome. This one.
And we are back. Fastest 2 hours in podcasting. This is great stuff. Can't get enough of it. We actually took a long break.
Yep.
Laura came in, did her intro, and got to meet Luke. She wasn't here before, so that was cool. And so we're back. And I don't remember exactly where we were, but we've got some maps pulled up. We're going to let Luke take it away here.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, we were in the Lacandone jungle in southern Mexico in the state of Chiapas, and I was kind of just detailing some of my main points of interest that I definitely want to explore someday.
Let's see this real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Got to get down. There we go.
So,
That's right. The next place we're going in the jungle after we go find the cities.
after we die down there, then we're gonna go die over here.
yes.
Right.
So,
At this point, Russ will be a skeleton on the spikes in the initial jungle,
That's right.
yes.
and so it'll just be me and you, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And so my work that I do as far as the Maya, what I am beginning to specialize in over the course of like the last 6 months. This is where I'm really kind of figuring out, okay, what am I going to study? What's going to be my contribution to the world of the Maya? Now, I'm not going to officially my intention isn't to work for a university, but rather to do not scientific publications, but more like informal publications where
Sort of
I'm
like journal.
yeah, like being a journalist, kind of like what Graham does, but just with the degree of being an anthropologist.
Yeah.
And focusing more on the Maya. So this is where I believe, and I don't think anybody would deny this. This is the or one of the fertile crescents of the Maya world. There's several rivers that run right through this area. That's why you see like these cultivated
much
areas through
farming
here.
area.
Right.
So
Yeah.
for the people just listening, what is this area here?
So this is the Belize Valley. This
Okay.
is kind of like the lowlands of Belize. You got mountains up here, and then you've got, I think the elevation increases a bit up here, but it's mostly like flat Petén region. This is just really an extension of the Guatemala Maya Petén region here. So right here is the Belize Valley. These are some of the oldest settlements of the Maya, and what makes this important is kind of what I highlighted in our meeting earlier today, is that this region right here, being the Fertile Crescent of the Maya world, defies everything that old world archaeology says about, you know, why civilization should be born. These guys had everything. They had all the fruit, all the vegetables, all the wild game, all the fish, all the fresh water you could want, and yet they still built cities.
So
They
this is the
still
Garden of
built-
Eden.
This is the Garden of Eden,
And they
basically.
chose not to stay naked.
Yeah, and they chose to rise above like being just like a savage, you know, like nomadic roamer, and so they built scientifically inclined civilizations that studied the stars, some of the most, you know, one of the most knowledgeable civilizations that ever existed, with so much more knowledge than we even realized. And a lot of it began right here. And there's a lot of cities.
So before you go on,
Right.
like explain the difference in how the old world archaeologists look at civilization. You're saying this,
Right, I'm
this
sorry, yeah.
upsets that. So what's the difference here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So basically, old world archaeology believes that after the drying of the desertification of the Sahara Desert, so it used to be a green Sahara up until about 5,000 to 4,500 BC, and about 4,500 BC, it had become completely arid. So you had people who were moving to South Central Africa that were going down, just following the wild game as it left the desert, trying to get out of the desert. And people just followed, and they continued farming and herding their animals, and they just left the desert as it got more dry, and they went down towards kind of where the Congo region is, and they live around the area of the Congo and down further to South Africa. And then you had some people who ended up along the Nile Valley, and then in Mesopotamia as well, you know, the Middle East, those people ended up along the Euphrates River, the Tigris River.
Yep.
And then the people in Pakistan and in India, they ended up along the Indus Valley River, which runs into the Indian Ocean. And so you have these main civilizations that existed there, and from there just bursts, you know, the ancient world, you know, and eventually leads to Rome and Greece. And so Rome and Greece, that is the bread and butter of old world archaeology, of classical archaeology. That's what it's called. And so classical archaeology really begins in, I guess, you know, their forte is Greece and Rome, but they also go to Egypt, of course, because Egypt is intimately tied there. They also look at Mesopotamia, of course, so all your Middle Eastern, you know, cities in there, and then the Indus Valley a bit. And so their interpretation is that, well, look at civilization, look at the reason it was built. It was done because of catastrophic climate change.
Yeah.
And so people weren't able to build outwards anymore because they needed to stay close to fresh water. They started building up. They started building walls to divide themselves. It wasn't like every one person had 100 acres of land anymore to use as they wanted to. They had to
And hunter-gatherer. You know,
hunter-gathering, this, that, and the other. So they created civilization, which that's true. I mean, they're right about that. You know, that's why that happened. But it's not just like, you can't just steamroll every human being that's ever lived with this perception of why the Nile Valley, the Twin Rivers, and the Indus Valley were settled. I mean, that's why they were settled.
So you're saying they're taking like the explanation for what happened in this small region, relatively small region,
in
then
the
just
realm of
painting
classical
every
archaeology.
civilization in this broad brush.
Yes. And I wouldn't say that, like, if you went and asked, so this is where, like, somebody playing devil's advocate would go, oh yeah, really? Well, why don't you go ask an archaeologist who studies ancient China, where they also had all the resources? Well, yeah, I don't think an archaeologist who studies ancient China would tell you that. How many archaeologists do you know that study ancient China? Like, where are they all? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where everybody is at, where our entire in the Western world, you know, we can't talk about what people in China think because we don't know, and neither do they in some cases. And and so our entire Western philosophy comes from classical archaeology. It comes from Western thought. It comes from Greece. It comes from Rome. So the entire way that we think is based on this. And so, you know, you've got these arrogant academics. They're not all arrogant, but, you know, you see it on Twitter all the time.
Yes.
Like, all over Twitter, you got these guys who have these preconceived ideas that were told to them by people that came before them, which a lot of it is originally bases from an idea that's incorrect when you try to apply it to the rest of the world other than the realm of classical archaeology where it belongs.
Right.
And so the Maya are a breath of fresh air because you cannot approach the Maya with your own preconceived idea of what you think humans should do or the way they should behave or what they should be doing. There's no reason for them to have built all the cities and start studying the stars and this, that, and the other. There's no
outside force like
that's what I'm saying.
driving them
There's
towards
no
this necessity.
Yeah. There's no climate apocalypse that forces them towards needing to come up with innovations. Like, you know, I mean, the world.
It's more like the other way around, right? Isn't it an idea that the cause of the decline was some huge drought?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it's it's actually climate change that causes them to lose what they had.
Yeah. So they lost everything that they had because of climate change and because drought and the rivers dried up and everything. But according to classical archaeology, there's no reason that they should have ever gotten started.
In the first place, right? Yeah.
There was no drastic event pushing them towards innovation. Like, you know, the world wars just made... You know, it created like another industrial revolution where technology has just been spinning ever since, you know, 1940, the 1940s. And so that is what makes the Maya Fertile Crescent of the Belize Valley fascinating to me. Also, I just find it fascinating because it's not very mainstream in the Maya world either, because Belize is such a small country. I think they've got about 400,000 residents of the country that actually live there. So we got less than 500,000 people that actually live there, and they don't have a lot of funding to turn all of their sites into tourist attractions, this, that, and the other. So in itself, it's very unknown, but it has ruins that are just as like magnificent as anywhere else in the world. And okay, so if you look at the size of the country, you guys, I think like 40% of the country is a remote jungle. Oh yeah. Like, look at this.
Yeah,
these are the Maya Mountains. Okay. Of the Maya Mountains, like there's I believe down here there may be a site like Nimli Punt and Altun Ha might be down here. I think I have those right. There's another one that's up here. Like there's a small site that's here, and then right in here you have Karakol, which is a huge Maya capital city. Yeah, it's right here, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I missed it. Yeah, there's Karakol. And so this is way out in the middle of the jungle. But if you look, it's just like on the tip of the jungle. You know what I mean? There's so much more in here. This is all remote. I mean, people don't travel around here. Some of it's labeled, like you have a camp down here. But I'm not really sure what these guys study down here, but it's 100% probability that there are other huge cities in here.
Man, this is just making me think about like what type of life is in there that no one has ever seen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Snakes, spiders, insects, all kinds of stuff. And
I was thinking more about Sasquatch, but anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, and then you have up here, you have the Orange Walk. You have the Orange Walk jungle. And somewhere, I can show you exactly where it is. So I always recognize it because this right here looks like a 3. So this is just a road going through the jungle. This is a service road that leads up to the La Milpa Eco Lodge. There's an archaeological site up here. But at the bottom of the 3, just west, right out here, is a city that was discovered by Dr. Edwin Barnhart called Ma'ashna. which is he named it that. And it's between these three mountains, and there was supposedly a river running through it, but he believes that the river has dried up. That's why.
And he's been there physically, like
he discovered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what led him to think there was something out there to drive him to walk that far out into the jungle in the first place?
I believe that he was just. I believe that he would. So he was working on his master's at the time, and I think he was going along survey lines, like just cutting straight lines through the jungle, just to locate stuff, just to find stuff. And then he found a British logging road.
Oh, okay.
And through that road, he was like, this is weird. So I want to say they followed the survey lines, and then at some point they're like, okay, forget this. Let's just follow the survey, or let's just follow the logging road, see where it goes. And whoever the British people were that were out here way out in the middle of the jungle for who knows what reason also found that city.
Oh, okay.
And so I believe that service road went straight to that city, but it was like a service road that was barely visible. I mean, it would take an archaeologist who has been in the jungle that can kind of see things. Like it's something that I may not recognize. He had a trained eye that he was able to see. And so so it was out here. He documented it. So one of the next things that I want to do, so right now I'm in the middle of, not in the middle, I'm at the very, very beginning of writing my first publication, which is going to be like a short book. It might not end up being short. I won't say the name of it because I don't want anybody to ever take it. But it's a cool name, and it might. I'm gonna, hopefully, if it does well, it'll end up being a series. But it's basically me starting with the Maya of Belize, and I'm going to visit on my own all of the. I'm going to visit on my own all of the ancient cities there, and I'm going to be like doing diagrams of them, and I'm going to tell, it's not going to be like this big lengthy thing, kind of like Graham Hancock's work or something like that. There's going to be a lot of illustrations, a lot of sketchings of what the ruins look like. I'll give like facts about the ruins, the astronomical alignments of each of them, when they were built, and what the mysteries are around them. And it's just going to be like a handbook for somebody to flip through and just like gain an incredible amount of like insight to these sites of little bite-sized facts about like ancient mysteries of Belize. That's cool. Kind of what I'm working on. Now, the next thing I want to do though is, so we were talking about the blue hole earlier. This is what I've been wanting to get to. The blue hole is, I might miss it, but I think it's like up here. Could we type it in?
Yeah, it should be marked too. Yeah, type it in.
Yeah, go to the, let's see.
Yeah, blue hole, Belize. Yeah,
Please
so
don't take me somewhere.
no. Yeah, so it's the one that's down there, but out in the ocean.
Yeah, you can see it out there.
This?
Yeah. No, not that one.
No. Yeah, because there's all kinds of.
Oh, lake.
I don't know what those
lake.
are.
I didn't see that. Okay.
So lake.
Great Blue Hole.
Great Blue Hole.
Yeah,
maybe,
that could be it. That could be
Tourist
it.
attraction in Belize.
There we go.
There it is. That's it.
Okay, so the Great Blue Hole. I think there's. I'm not sure if there's more than one of these guys out there. I'm sure that there is in the ocean. So I don't know. I mean, this is a question for a geologist or somebody who knows a bit more about this than I do. But from what I am told and the bit of research that I've done, the geological processes that go through of creating this are not the same as a cenote that you would find up in the state of Yucatan, in the Mexican state of Yucatan. Whatever process makes this is it's like it causes just a sinkhole where it just boom, like whatever, that surface just falls in. And for whatever reason, as far as I know, and I could be totally ignorantly wrong about this, but I don't think that process is exactly the same as a cenote.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. Maybe somebody listening knows better than I do.
Watcher might be pulling some stuff up. We can check his.
Yeah.
What he's dropping in a minute.
So, but what's interesting is, so, you look along the lines here, this is, there's really not a lot of difference between here and over here. It's just, this is underwater. So what's interesting is if you go look in the jungles of Belize, and we're going to have to do a bit of so look in the jungles. I believe it's south of Caracol. I'm more used to looking at this on my computer.
Do a little bit of searching here.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a little bit of exploration in the jungle, and
That's
it's kind of difficult for me to... what do you guys see? What do you guys see?
Yeah, look at that. Oh.
There are more blue holes.
These are the pictures you had put in the chat.
Did I put these in? Yeah.
a while back.
There
and I
are-
was like, let's go.
There are there are several of these. So here's two. If we glance
there's
around,
another.
there's a third one.
Ah.
Now what's crazy is this one. Supposedly, people have been out. There's only been very, very, very few people who have gone out here. They connect. Like these are underground tunnel systems. Okay,
wow.
you can see another one right here. If we keep searching around, like you can see where some of them are like halfway, where like it doesn't look perfectly like a circle, but you can tell there's indentations.
It's got some kind
So
of
you think
collapse.
there's something geologically connecting these underground?
like a giant cave system, and you got sinkholes?
Sure. Yeah. These are giant cave systems. I mean, these go all the way down underground in all directions. These
look
two
at the
are certainly
faint-
connected.
Can I see the cursor real quick?
Yeah.
I'm seeing, and this could be, just jungle, but there's these faint borders here.
Oh,
going
yes.
all the way along.
Yes.
It's like this big rim.
Yeah. No,
See, it runs all the way along.
You're exactly right. And there's different satellite maps that you can use to see the same thing, and it makes it a lot
Oh, we
more
could go to
clear.
the USGS map tool. That would be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Problem
if you can
is
get
it's not U.S.
Yeah. You can't get it down
So
there.
it's there's another one that I use a lot. I don't know what that is right there. That might just be like
That's
a
really
cloud.
interesting looking. Yeah, well, it's a cloud. Yeah.
But you see that in the
Yeah.
ground?
Yeah.
So one of my big interests
Look at all those trees.
I want to go out here. I want to investigate some of these sites on my own. So there's one there. Oh, I'm sorry. And now people have been out here. They call this the black hole. And there are people that go out there. You can hire these like brave expeditionary guys who will take you down and will repel you down into the black hole. Now, they don't do a whole lot of exploration, but the guys that have, I believe it's this one. This is the one they call a black hole. I don't think people repel into here, and they certainly don't repel into here. I'm sure some people have gone out there, but it's not documented as far as anywhere I've seen. This is basically the main, like it's the most prominent one, and it's the main one. Now, the Maya knew about these. They had seen these before.
Oh yeah.
And they were able, so when they rappelled down into them, they were finding ritualistic and sacrificial sites down inside at the bottom of the hole, which told them, oh, there's entrances in here. Because obviously they weren't rappelling. They weren't like climbing vines down. Because, and I didn't say this, this is bigger. This is much bigger than any Mayan cenote. Way, way, way bigger.
Can I look at the
And-
elevation here?
Yeah. And so I'm not sure how deep they are, but it's ridiculously deep. And so there
Well,
are.
hold on. Let me push back a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
If they made a suspension bridge across a fast-running river,
Yeah.
maybe they could make ropes that they could climb down in there with. Is that possible?
I just don't know that it'd be anything we could have evidence of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm just
Like,
saying.
Yeah,
it seems like now that
That's
I
a
know
good
that they
point.
made suspension bridges, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
say maybe they did rappel down.
That's a
in that
good
thing.
point. That's a good point. Yeah. See, I'm turning into an academic in some ways. I'm like, no, that's not possible. But yeah, it is possible. It is possible, actually. Now that you say that.
But that still doesn't discount the idea that they may be connected with tunnels. Like there's an entrance at the bottom.
Well,
they were able to get in from
they
somewhere else.
they are connected to tunnels.
Yeah.
There is a tunnel somewhere in here. I can't tell you exactly which direction it is. I plan to find out. But there are tunnels that go off through here, and some people have gone exploring deep inside of them, and they have found an actual like Indiana Jones crystal skull. There's an actual crystal skull
Wow.
inside that has been it was just a skull that was placed like up onto this altar deep inside one of the caves, and it's crystallized over the last 1500 years.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting there.
Been crystallized by cave deposits
Yeah,
naturally.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
How many feet would that be?
Let's see. So this thing is 852 feet across.
Yeah. So I believe that the cenote that is at Chichen Itza is 350. It's at biggest it's 350 across. It might be 250. So that's 850 feet across.
Yeah, that's
it's
enormous.
gargantuan.
Okay, so we're gonna cross this jungle from the nearest village.
Yeah.
We're gonna rappel down into this hole.
So the nearest place you go is
look at that
the nearest
landscape. It's
the nearest place I'm gonna go is Union Camp. They have this down there. I don't even know if there really is something there, but there is a camp somewhere up in here.
That's really far away.
Yeah. There is a camp somewhere up in here, and that's where I'll stay. And in my next visit, I plan to just go down here and stay for a couple of days at the camp and kind of talk to people and be like, okay, so how can I get out to the black hole? This, that, and the other. And so we're going to camp. Oh God, I can't even.
There it
find
is
anymore.
on the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
go left.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
So I want to go to the black hole, and I'm gonna have to get like a Phoenix watch to be able to like track my GPS satellite location at all times. Like solar powered, blah blah blah. So it's a big thing.
You're gonna die, bro.
Maybe
You're gonna die.
And I don't.
I'll be there to video while you do
We'll go
So-
with you. We'll also go with you.
So
to die.
I want to go. I want to go out here, and I want to go. I don't think anybody's ever been here.
Yeah.
I want to investigate that, and basically, I want to follow this ridge all the way around here, and I want to try to look for entrances that could lead in here. And I have a good friend who's a speleologist in Pennsylvania, and he works in Laurel Caverns, which is one of the oldest cave systems in North America. It's and I believe it's on like the oldest mountain in the world. It's within the oldest mountain in the world, and he knows a lot about like where to look for caves when you're looking for geology on the outside. Like all he does is cave hunting up in Pennsylvania, and so he's gonna go with me, and so we're gonna go through here, and I want to document. What did the Maya, what kind of significance was this? And really, I just want to bring light to an area of the Maya world that not a lot of people know about, and an area of the ancient world that not a lot of people know about. And the book's basically going to be a deep dive just into the Fertile Crescent of the Maya, which is all of this right here that nobody ever talks about. People only ever talk about Tikal and Guatemala and Chichen Itza and Tulum and things like that. And so this is a totally kind of unknown world.
And this is the oldest part. This is
the oldest. Well, I mean, they're all kind of equally as old because it's not like
they built on top of
Yeah, and they were like cultures that saw each other, and they're like, oh, let's do that. Oh, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's copy those guys. It wasn't like the Nile where everybody's just in one spot. This civilization grew naturally, but according to the data. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at like Coelho and Cerros, these ancient sites that were here that are some of the oldest Maya sites in all of the Yucatan. And so the basis of my research, probably in my career, will be over the Maya of Belize, and I want to lead like tours there and do stuff like that. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And so I want to do lots of expeditions in the jungle. And it helps because it's in an English-speaking country. So if something were to ever go wrong, there would always be somebody that I could like effectively communicate with. So, yeah, cool. So if you guys want to come, let's do it.
Yeah, we're doing this.
I mean, you sold me on it. Sure.
Totally sold. Yeah, that's really great. I love it.
That was fantastic.
Oh man, I've never been really into the jungle. Mm-hmm. Like I've been at the edge of a jungle that had recently been cleared. Mm-hmm. And I walked in maybe, a couple yards, 10, 15 feet, something like this. And it's so thick.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. And I've just seen ruins just going right into a wall of vegetation. It's
where
wow.
was this?
This was in Costa Maya. I was telling
Costa
you about.
Maya. Okay.
The road just goes, they were trying to clear the road.
And of course, this is coastal.
Wall
Yeah.
It's coastal, so it's got, like a lot of the coastal plants and just palms and all this stuff. It was just a wall of jungle.
Yeah, now that's different than anything I've seen. The jungle, it's different. Like, you know.
Yeah, I would imagine deep
yeah.
forest further from the coast is going to
Yeah.
be. You'd have tall trees. I mean, the stuff you're down there. How tall are these trees?
Tall.
I mean, they're way up there. So
yeah.
you got this big canopy, and is it fairly open on the bottom, or is there like a lot of?
it is. It is fairly open.
You're not like wading through vegetation that's just all up in your.
Yeah. There's
that's
not
kinda
as much
jungle,
that grows at the bottom. There is a lot, and it does get dense. But I've noticed that it's not like on the coast. On the coast, my God,
It's impossible. It's impenetrable.
Yeah, you can't walk through it. Like, yeah, and it's swampy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, and at every point, you're knee to hand height with where a snake is going to be, you know, but deep in the jungle, the snakes are at your feet. You know what I mean? And unless it's some kind of like eyelash viper that's, you know, hiding in the. Basically, the main worries. Basically, the main.
Let's go
Okay,
back to
all right.
Let's go back to like what all is
What
going
is
to be
gonna
killing
kill
us.
us?
Yeah. So I wanted to address this. Okay. So the main things that will kill you in the jungle. All right. There's not a lot. Like, well, I mean, there's a lot, but it's not the things you would think. Like, it's not necessarily a jaguar or something like that. The Blue Ridge part of the
Yeah, the
Appalachian
Watchers
Range.
put some stuff
Yeah.
up here for us to look at.
Oh,
I just
okay,
switched
okay.
back to
Blue
the
Ridge,
Watcher
yeah.
panel. We've been in Google Earth this whole time.
So that's
Yeah,
so
so-
the sinkhole. The
So this
blue
is
hole-
only 165 by 200 feet is the cenote at Chichen Itza. So that
Okay.
other one was 850.
850. Yeah, it's
Huge.
Wow.
And
So-
yeah, this is right.
No, you're good.
This is the sinkhole of the Blue Hole originally formed as a limestone cave
Yeah.
during the last glacial period when the sea levels were much lower. Because there are stalactites in there, which would not obviously form if it was underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, okay, the stuff that will kill you in the jungle. So let's just say we arrive at Yashilan and we start heading off in the jungle looking for ruins. Number one is like, so in North America, you know, we freak out about copperheads and rattlesnakes. That's nothing. You know, Brett, you might know, like a rattlesnake bite is or the Watcher. You know, a rattlesnake bite, it's really it can kill people, but like the vast majority of people who are like sturdy and healthy, if you pop like a few Benadryl and try to sleep for a week, you can survive it. You know, it would be better to get hospital treatment, but you're gonna be spending a lot of money. Copperhead bite, you'll live that. You'll live through that. A Nawiaka, which would be a fer-de-lance, is where they live is the Yucatan Peninsula. That is their home, and fer-de-lance is, you know, probably top 3 most venomous snakes in the entire world. There was a guy, if I remember the story correctly, it's named after a guy whose name was fer-de-lance, and he would get himself purposely bitten by snakes to document the effects of it, and it killed him. Yeah. And it killed him in like a few days. And so and he was talking about how like he felt so terrible. And so the fer-de-lance is the worst one. I mean,
I want to make a Monty Python joke, but he was documenting it, and the effect of the snake bite was.
oh yeah.
Died while writing it.
Yeah. You know, that could be like in reference to the guy who died from the fer-de-lance. Like that really could be where that comes from, because it's pretty similar. You know, he was in the middle of like writing the symptoms of it and he died. And so
Doing it for science, folks.
know,
yeah.
That's dedication.
And
These people are hardcore.
so you got the fer-de-lance. That one is bad. I mean, you could look up videos of untreated fer-de-lance bites, and I think he got bit like on his chest or something crazy like that, where like the
that's not
venom
good.
went to his heart.
Yeah.
But there are most people get bit on their feet.
Yeah.
What is
and,
this eyelash viper?
Eyelash vipers. So they
They're
climb up
eye
in the
level.
trees and they sit at eye level, face level, and they're green or they're yellow, or you know, they're able to align themselves with colors that match them. So, you know, a yellow eyelash viper is going to be sitting on like some kind of pale branch that's kind of yellow, you know, and they're going to try to camouflage themselves, and they're just going to sit. They like wrap their bodies over the vine so that they sit looking like a leaf or something. And the green ones and the dark green ones are really dangerous because they just sit there and their body is already, it's like hanging over the sides and it's sprung already. So it's ready just to push out at you.
Yeah.
And so eyelash viper is incredibly venomous, but not like a ferret lance. I think if you got bit in the face by eyelash viper, you would probably die. You know, the closer
Face
it is
shields.
to your face and heart, I feel like this is likely to you dying.
Yeah.
You can look up videos of like a ferret lance bite on the foot that hasn't been treated in 30 days, and all the muscle tissue is gone, and it's like this little bit, it's just that's exactly what it looks like. It's this little bit of blackened, hardened tissue around leg bone. You know, that's what it is. Like your leg is gone.
Yeah.
If you don't get immediate
It's
treatment,
just destroying the tissue. Yeah.
even if it's treated within an hour, you're going to be in recovery for 6 months after a ferret lance bite on the foot. Now, believe it or not, that is not necessarily the deadliest thing you could come across. So you've got the ferret lance, okay? You've got which is like above and beyond. That's really, really bad. Eyelash viper is pretty bad. You've also got the coral snake, which everybody knows of a coral snake. You don't want to get bitten by a coral snake. But the thing is, if you're wearing like at least some hiking like decent boots, their heads are so small they're not gonna be able to bite through your shoe, and they're not gonna bite you on your ankle because they're such small snakes.
Okay.
But you always need to be wearing snake boots, like knee-high snake boots out there, because the vast majority of the time you get bit on the bottom of your feet, like not on the sole of it, but right on the side of your foot. You're gonna get bitten right there. That's where it's gonna strike you, or you're gonna put your hand somewhere that it doesn't need to be. It's gonna bite your hand.
Yeah. I came pretty close to getting rattlesnake bit. On
Really?
This last Scablands trip. Yeah. I was leading a group of people back through it's a very, desert area with shrubs. And I knew it was dangerous. It's snake season. We were out there.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of stomping, ahead of, like you stomp and you want to alert them. You don't want to surprise them basically by sneaking up and stepping. And I'm stomping or whatever, and I'm walking, and I put my foot down, my right foot, and then the rattle goes off right next to me in the bush right there. And like I froze, because you don't want to startle him or whatever. And I backed away very slowly, and I looked in, and sure enough, he's coiled up right in there, like he was within biting range. Like I'm really lucky that he didn't.
They're nothing to be messed with, man.
No.
And they're what's crazy is like of all snakes, like I think a coral snake might be more venomous than like I don't know if it was a diamondback rattlesnake or whatever. A coral snake might be more venomous, but damn, if a rattlesnake is not way more intimidating.
Yeah.
Those things are freaking scary.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. So
watch us show that terrible pictures. No.
Yeah. So the other thing that you don't want to mess with, this might be the most deadly thing. Now you've got these like feral hogs and stuff like that will just come and like stomp you down. They'll show up out of nowhere and just run you over and kill you. And
we know a little bit about that.
Yeah. Of course you do. Yeah, they'll come and gore you. You know, and so you've got that. Dr. Barnhart was almost killed by one of those, and it just I guess it charged him and it turned and ran off in the jungle. Yeah. He also got stalked by like a jaguar, whatever. But the most dangerous thing are, so I don't know in what country it was, but I think it was in Central America. They tried to take the American honeybee and the African bee.
Oh, no.
And they tried to create a bee that was so docile, because the African bee and the honeybee, the American honeybee, I believe, were like the most docile, tame bees. You could put your hand in the beehive real slowly. None of them are going to sting you. So they tried to mate them to make the most docile bee that would produce like the best honey, whatever. They made demons, actual bees from hell, and they escaped the laboratory that they were in. So now there's legions of killer Africanized bees swarming around the jungles of Central America right now. And if they find you, there will be a swarm of them. And the only thing you can do is you can hear them coming from like 100 feet away, just. Yeah. and you dive into like the thickest brush that you can and hope you don't land on a snake, and you just let them fly over you because they fly high up in the treetops. But any big animal that they see, they just swarm the animal and kill it.
Oh my
They'll
God.
sting it. They'll sting it 100,000 times until it dies. And here's the thing about these Africanized bees.
All right, so we got face shields, bee suits.
Yeah. You can try to run from them. They'll follow you for over a mile. If you're next to water and you
They'll hover
if you
over it.
run and jump in the water, they'll just watch you while you're in the
We
water.
need snorkels.
Yeah, and if you try to,
don't want 'em coming down
they would come down the
with
snorkel.
screens.
You would go, you
with
go,
screens.
You would go,
Snorkels with screens.
yeah.
Bee snorkels.
Yeah. And so they'll sit above you and they'll sting you when you come out. And if you try to swim away, they'll just follow you.
Oh my God.
And you can't get away from them. Like that's probably the most dangerous thing in the jungle. That and falling trees as well. Like I've been in
Tanks. All right.
Yeah. I've been in I never experienced this while I was there. It usually happens after rain, because like the wood soaks up the rain, it gets heavy and causes things to fall over. But it rains a lot. And I've been in the rainforest in North Carolina. North Carolina has a really small rainforest. And I've been out there right after it rains. Oh my God. You hear and you're looking around and you're like, I don't know where it's coming from. I'm not kidding you. In 1 hour, we had 3 trees fall in our vicinity. And one of them, so every time I'm up in North Carolina, I go looking for like glyphs, because there are like these ancient glyphs up in North Carolina that, that Native Americans drew in the rocks, and you can see them. They draw them these big, megalithic boulders, and it's easy to spot them. It's not easy to find them, but my buddy and I will go out, kind of pretending like we're in Central America, but just doing stuff for fun. And after it rains, man, trees are falling everywhere, and it's the exact same thing in Central America. Trees are falling, and the only thing to do if say us and we're with a whole team, if you hear a tree falling, everybody runs in an opposite direction so that
not everyone dies.
So that the fewest amount of people get killed by a tree as possible. That's the only thing to do.
Tanks.
Isn't that crazy? So yeah, man, that's I don't know, that's part of the allure though. But yeah, I'm just like,
I'd rather be
obsessed with
killed by a
this stuff.
falling tree than a swarm of bees, though, I think.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Could you imagine getting to the point where bees have because you can survive like 5,000 stings, and be okay. But
So like a tree falls on you and breaks your leg, and you're crawling, and then the bees come.
but it was a tree.
you can't
It was a
dive
tree that was inhabited
By the bees, it falls on you,
And so
you're
they think it's
you
your
do your
fault.
best to like crawl dive under a bush, and there's the freaking eyelash viper there, and it bites your face.
Yeah. It bites your face, and now you're freaking out, and you're frantically moving, and then the bees are like, "Oh, he's the reason that our
tree
tree
fell,
fell
yeah.
over. Kill him."
Yeah.
And so they sting you to the point that you comatose.
And it actually counteracts the venom of the snake, and then they kill the snake because they don't like him either.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they would swarm a snake for sure. You imagine
Okay,
a snake getting
so we could
swarmed by
survive.
bees.
So then at the end of the day, you just have a broken leg,
Yeah. The bee.
and then you
you
make
have
a
a
splint.
superpower. You have a
You make
superpower
a
or
splint
something.
from the fallen tree to put on your leg. and you're good.
Yeah.
Tie it up with the snake.
Let's do this, bro.
I'm down to do it, man. I'm down. Yeah. So,
What a
Damn.
fantastic show, man. Thank you.
well, thank you
Highly
guys for having
entertaining.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wrap it
That
up.
was
We got
freaking awesome.
Yep.
Let's wrap it up. We got some closing.
But first, tell people again where they can find your stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can just find me anywhere. It's just my name, Luke Caverns. Luke like Luke Skywalker. Caverns like a cave. Multiple caves.
So you're on Instagram, Twitter.
Where are you posting
Facebook?
most of your stuff?
Yeah.
Like, what are you?
Where
Where are you most active?
Yeah, I do short videos 4 or 5 days a week, and you can find those on Instagram, TikTok, and like Facebook Reels. But for longer format on YouTube, I'm still kind of finding my voice on YouTube, how exactly I'm going to go about that. But Instagram seems to be the main place right now.
Okay.
It just kind of popped off in the last year.
Excellent.
Awesome.
We got
Go
some.
check him out.
Yep.
And he's going to be at the Cosmic Summit.
That's right.
Yep.
So you also come to
So
that.
I'll be talking about the same topics as I was talking about today.
Awesome.
In some different ways and a bit more concise than
Yeah.
than this. So I got to keep it under an hour.
And we won't be interrupting you the whole
Yeah,
time.
no, it's all good. Yeah, and you bring up some good points. Yeah, definitely like give pushback. You know, that's always important.
No,
So
we don't push back.
yeah. We don't push back. We don't question. Okay.
He's pushing back on the
I'm just
pushback.
pushing back on you a little bit there. Sorry, man.
He's trolling you.
just joking with you a lot.
He's trying to do his job.
But
over
it's
there.
so great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It's
this was
been
a fantastic
awesome.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to give some shout outs. Are you going first here?
Yeah, this is a one-up package that we received from our good friend Annabel. It also makes her an executive producer because
Oh,
there is a sweet cash donation there. Thank you very much, Annabel, and
Cold and
also in
hard.
James. So, I normally demand that people not send me handwritten notes, but I think I can read this one, so I'll try it real quick here. So it says, "Dear Russ, James and I have a winter/early spring routine of a Friday afternoon ski at the local ski resort. Since our return from a life-changing trip to Egypt with Uncharted X and friends in November, we usually listen to an Egypt-related or otherwise ancient civilization-related podcast during the 40-minute drive up and down the mountain. Recently, we listened to a Snake Bros podcast where you were very clear that Grumpy Morning Russ does not want anyone to email him cat pictures. So that's why I'm making sure that this picture of my neighbor's cat, Fluffy, is sent to you via snail mail. Also enclosed is a token of our appreciation of all that you do, and Kyle, too. Cheers, Annabelle and James." And yes, she gave me
I
this
love y'all.
lovely drawing of a cat
That's great.
sent
That's
by
actually
snail
really
mail.
good.
So she's getting around
Fluffy.
Grumpy Morning Russ's rules. Don't send me cat pictures.
Fluffy.
Yes.
That's a really nice picture.
It is a great
Yeah, it is.
drawing. Yeah, it's very well done. Thank you so much, Annabelle. That's great. Thank you.
All right. So another executive producer of this show is Alisa Voronova.
Ah,
$105. And then this is a little bit dated. Sorry, we haven't.
Kyle's been slacking on his job over here.
I'm so sorry. She says, "Happy anniversary, Snake Family." So, because this was May 20th, which is mine and Laura's anniversary, and also
Oh,
Elisa's birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
She says, "Love you, my brother and sister."
Awesome.
And happy birthday to you. Late birthday. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Next is Anne Who Knits.
Ah,
$200.
wow.
Executive producer
Thank you,
of the
Ann.
show.
Another
Thank you
executive
so
producer.
much. And she says, "I have no idea what you might do with this. Absolutely none at all." She tried to tell us one time we had
She's
to buy
always trying
pizza.
to tell us what we can do with their donations.
She tried to tell us this is for pizza for everybody at the Scablands tour, and I was like, "No."
That's funny.
And
you
then we
so much.
ended up buying pizza for everyone at the Scablands tour.
Yeah.
That actually did happen. We didn't purchase it with her donation, but pizza was
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. We really appreciate
Long
it.
time supporter of the show.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. And then we have, I really love this last name, but this is Peter Chesbrough. But I kind of want to make it cheeseburger.
It's Chesbrough.
Chesbrough. Says, "Thanks for these eyes and extra gray matter. Keep it unreal. Cheese from the Discord." Okay, so he's cheese.
Oh, okay. It's cheese. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. $88. We're going to make you an executive producer of the show as well. And then finally, we have Charles Meredith with $40, an associate executive producer. Says, "Thanks for all you guys are doing. Love the show."
Thank you guys
all
so much. The support means a lot to us. We really appreciate it. And thanks to all the new people who've been joining the Patreon. It really helps. It does. It helps the show a lot. And Kyle's got plans for new equipment. We're changing some stuff. So it's really great. And of course, you guys are always, all the support gives us a backup for when we go on trips. You know, we're not worried that if something happens that, you know, there's always money to get tickets to go home if there are emergencies. So we really appreciate that. It's like a peace of mind
Safety net.
that you guys provide for us. So thank you so much.
And we definitely need to use it to go to the jungle and
Yes,
Some crazy
some of this money now clearly is going to go to us getting lost and dying deep in the jungle somewhere.
Yeah.
Because
And whatever's left over, pay for funeral costs.
genius. First for anti-venom, then for the funeral costs, right? Yeah. Thanks, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, after the cost of antivenom, there's not gonna be a whole lot left. You're gonna have a pauper's grave, like dig a hole and kick you in it.
We prefer, skeleton on the spikes. There's no funeral required.
No funeral required. That's right. All right. Thanks to all of you listeners out there. We love you guys.
Always have.
Always will.
Good night, Adamu.
Get back to work.
One more thing, ladies and gentlemen. We are releasing Precession on vinyl on the summer solstice, June 21st, for Patreon members exclusively. It will be $45 a record, and signed copies will be at no additional charge. After that, July 4th, we release it to the general public. It's $55 per record, and signed copies will be an additional $10. This is a beautiful double record album. It's 180 gram, high quality. It's a gatefold jacket with artwork and lyrics. It's just wonderful. We're very proud of it. And I hope you join up to the Patreon. It's actually cheaper if you join the Patreon because, it's only $3 a month. So you can join the Patreon, buy the record, and then cancel. Or maybe you'll stick around for a little bit because we've got some cool new music on there, some drafts, a couple of little live performances and other things that we kind of stick up there from time to time. So anyway, we are very excited to release this, and look for it online at $50dynasty.com or at our Patreon, patreon.com/$50dynasty. Thank you. Love ya.